Espero que nadie se ofenda, pero hasta que no estás aquí dentro no sabes la grandeza de este equipo.
Só nós sentimos assim. Por muitos desgostos que possamos ter, valores mais altos se levantam. O valor mais alto que se levanta em termos futebolísticos chama-se Benfica.
Good evening. Welcome to episode 38. We'll continue Benfica podcast. This one is called So That's What It Feels Like to Win. Feels like it's been forever. When was the last time we won? I can't even. Yeah, when was the last win? Famalicão?
Taça, no?
Wasn't it Rio?
Might have been the Taça.
We won after that. I think we won in the league, no? Yeah, it's clearly been a while if we're scratching our heads trying to figure out when the last time we won was. Today we got a few things to cover here, a couple of off-the-field topics as well. Talk about Thursday's disappointing defeat at the hands of Arsenal, considering the position that we were in. And yeah, the Taça was the last time we won. We won against Famalicão before that. So, the defeat against Arsenal. We'll talk about Monday's win at home against Rio Ave in the league. We'll talk about Luis Vieira's interview on Sunday, on the day of Benfica's 117th anniversary. Some mixed opinions in terms of that interview, so we'll talk on that. We'll look at, do we think that Diogo Gonçalves has captured with both hands Gilberto's starting role on the right side? And we'll touch quickly on the thought of international refs in the Portuguese league. Do we think it's a good idea or a bad idea? I'm sure that'll generate some interesting opinions. For those of you guys in the chat, listening, watching, I'm going to put the link in the chat. So if you want to join us, feel free. You can jump in, click on the link. You can do with audio or just video. Join us, join the conversation, share your thoughts, give us your opinions. More than welcome to. Again, you can do audio or video, whatever you prefer. Starting off with Arsenal. Just bring up some numbers here. So Benfica started with a 3 at the back again. So Elton Leite, Vertonghen, Otamendi, Lucas Veríssimo, Diogo on the right, Weigl, Tarat, Grimaldo, Rafa, Pizzi, and Sef up top by himself. Darwin, Everton, Gabriel, and Nuno Tavares, and Waldschmidt came in. Waldschmidt came in after. A game that I thought once Rafa had scored that goal, that was it. I think it was going to play on the counterattack and capture another goal and put it to bed. Didn't end up being that way. Looking at the stats, so, Diogo Gonçalves ended up being the highest rating in reference to goal point. They gave him the highest rating. Second highest on Benfica was Lucas Veríssimo. In terms of the stats, let me just bring it up here. We had, Arsenal stats. So 10 shots for Arsenal, 6 for Benfica, 2 on target for Benfica. I think it was the 2 goals. 5 on target for Arsenal, 3 of the goals. 1 corner, which is an interesting stat. 1 corner the whole game for both those sides. 85% pass efficiency against 89 for Arsenal. 64 vertical passes against 71. Defensive actions in the adversary's midfield, 13-9. But looking at the numbers, I mean, it's fairly comparable, right? I don't think that it was a drastic difference. Even possession, I think, was 53-47. It's nothing too concerning. What did you guys think of the game? Like I said, I thought once we went up 2-1, I thought it was it. I know Arsenal doesn't normally respond well to goals, especially being technically down 2 goals because of the away goal, and then we concede that stupid goal that Tierney scores, and then you just felt it like it was coming. Like they're gonna get one, and sure enough, they got one. Kenny, I'll start with you. What's your take on that game?
So the game just it feels like it was such a long time ago, but from what I can remember right now, it was a much better second leg than the first one. I thought both teams were actually going for it. They were both attacking pretty well. I mean, at the end of the day, I think Benfica they did all they could, right? I don't think they could have done any more to try and win or tied the game or how. Yeah, all they had to do was really tie it at that point. But I think they did everything they could. They put it all out there. So I'm not disappointed in that we're not through. I thought that there's clearly weaknesses on this team, but you saw some good things. I mean, Rafa stood out. Diogo's goal was the free kick, right? That was free kick. Yeah. That was awesome. Yeah. That's good to see. But yeah, at the end of the day, Arsenal just they were better and they found the last goal. Now, one thing I also would say, and it's not to harp on Nuno Tavares, but that last goal, right? Nuno Tavares comes in. Grimaldo was. I guess he had a knock or something, right? He wasn't feeling.
He was holding his hamstring when he came out.
Yeah. So Nuno Tavares comes in, and I feel like you always see this, and it's not. I'm not saying that the goal was his fault, but I feel like you always see crosses for game winners or they tie games coming from his side. Verismo was also kind of out of place, so Aubameyang is there for the header, but still, like, why doesn't Tavares ever close that space? Why doesn't he throw his body at the ball to stop the crosses? I feel like that happens all the time when he's on there. He gives one up like that all the time. But overall, I'm not that disappointed. I mean, it is what it is. I thought that they did their best that game, and unfortunately, we couldn't pull it off.
When was the last time you can remember saying they did their best and we couldn't pull it off?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say that, but I really do. I do think they put in a good effort. I mean, I thought that it's just, they were almost there, and you almost felt like it was coming. Like Arsenal was there. They're gonna score. They're gonna get the winner.
But you say they put in a good effort, right? And I think tactically they were good. I think they were disciplined. I think we were much better than in the first game. Those first 20 minutes in that first game, we were just up against the ropes, right? They were just down our throat. I didn't feel at any point in that game that Arsenal was better. There were times that they kept the ball for longer, but again, they didn't really create much, right? They pressed high right in the beginning of the second half. It gave me a little bit of a glimpse of that first game where they were pressing us high. But again, Benfica seemed to me like they were always in control, right? Or had control enough of the game that it didn't look like it was going to get away from them. More so when they scored that second goal. But when we say like Benfica played well, I struggle to think, right? I mean, the stats say it, right? We had 2 shots on target. But I struggle to think of any other moments that we really created problems for Arsenal when I think we could have created a ton of problems. There were so many times when we were up 2-1 that Rafa was just running at their defenders, right? And they
Yeah,
were back
that's where
early.
we were more
And
dangerous.
But then it almost seemed like we put the brakes on. Like, I don't want to get caught in the transition, so I'm going to run, and then I'm going to stop, possess the ball, let's bring it back. And I saw a lot of that in the last, 20 minutes, and it just, I don't know, I feel like I would have liked to see, that killer instinct, right? Like, even though you're up 2 goals, right, and you don't want to throw everything forward, but, you score a third goal there, and that's it. Done and dusted. Like, you don't have to think, unless something a catastrophe and everything goes wrong, but I feel like they had it in their hand and they let it go because we were more focused on, let's just see it out. Let's move the ball. Let's not throw too many guys forward. I don't know. I just feel like that was the sense that I got from it. Oscar, what did you think? And I'll ask both of you this question, but Oscar, I'll throw it to you first. What would you have done differently? Obviously, it's easier looking back in retrospect, right? Seeing how the game panned out, but what would have you done differently?
Well, like Kenny said, and I agree with a lot he just said, the first leg, the game should have been over. Arsenal had the chances to put that game away, and then basically gave us a lifeline to come back to the second leg 1-1, right? But we went to this game and I agree with Ken, we took to Arsenal 50-50. And this is one of the games I'm not mad at Benfica, other than not being able to hold the result. They haven't been able to hold the result the whole season. It's almost like you have to score at least 3 goals in order to guarantee a win. It's 2 goals not enough anymore. And before, and I still remember the Champions Leagues when we used to play at Liverpool, 1 goal at home, it's done deal. Against Juventus, we won 2-1. We go to Juventus, we know we have a team not to concede goals, and we go and tie 0-0 because we needed that 0-0. Today, we know we're going to concede because that confidence is not there. Benfica is not playing with the confidence that they used to have. And in this game, the second leg, I felt that second goal that Rafa scored came out of nowhere. Ceballos just gave us a gift, right? But I think Benfica was playing really well holding the ball. That one time I was watching it on a Spanish channel. The guy goes, feels like Benfica is winning the game. They have the possession. It feels like they're losing. They have all the possession. Arsenal's not touching the ball. And then all of a sudden, the second goal happened. For Arsenal, because I don't know how they let the guy score, and then there it goes. Everything goes to shambles. And then I don't agree with a lot of substitutions as Jesus did. I think Tabarato's having one of his best games in the midfield, and he took him out at the 57th minute. And it just to me, Mpezi came out. So the whole control of the game, where Benfica was having possession, almost gave the ball back to Arsenal, and that's what I don't understand why he does that. We're winning the game. Or at that time with Rafa, why give the ball back to Arsenal? Why put players in to give the ball back to Arsenal? I don't know what Jesus was thinking, and at that time. But I was impressed with Benfica going to Arsenal and losing 3-2. I was not expecting it. I was expecting a bigger loss
To Greece. To attendance.
Sorry, going to Arsenal, but going away. I don't care. Even after watching the first game. And knowing what we did, we could have lost easily 4-1. I thought the second game was going to be the same kind of game, right? Going there and being up 2-1 in the 67th minute, and that happening, it's better than I expected.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I like the criticism in terms of we gave the ball back to them. I think it almost ends up being unfair because. Right, we scored right after. We scored 3 minutes after the substitutions, right? But
on a gift.
Correct. But their goal comes the 67th minute, right? So 10 minutes later, right? So that in itself changes everything, right? If we don't concede that goal in the 67th minute, I didn't think we were that bad up until they scored that second goal. That second goal can't happen, right? And that's one frustration that I have is we talked about it in the chat, right? A guy like Everton, 1, his experience. 2, you don't want a guy like Everton defending in your box, right? That's problem number 1. But the fact that you have to know in that spot that Tierney is all left-footed, right? And he comes out flat-footed on him. He literally drops his shoulder and goes by him and tucks it into the back corner, right? That for me is just terrible defending. But again, it's coming from a player that is used to being in the final 25 yards of the pitch and isn't used to being that far back in the field. So I'm not surprised by that. And then you talked about Tavares, Kenny. I know that we don't want to blame it on him, right? Like, I feel like we attack him, right? Like every time we talk about Nuno Tavares, apart from the Porto game, like I feel like it's always negative, right? And I don't think as a fan you want to do that, right? Like it's not fun to talk bad about one of the players on your team, right? Like I don't get pleasure out of that, right? But you got to call a spade, right? Against Sporting, we concede the goal the same way. Right? He doesn't come out to the guy with the ball. He's lazy approaching him. He lets the ball come in, and it ends up resulting in a goal, right? And then against Arsenal, his original positioning, when Saka gets that ball, he's outside of the box. His original positioning when he gets the ball is fine. He's got his body turned. He's forcing him outside. Saka starts dribbling into the box, and he backs off. And then as soon as Saka drops his left foot or drops his shoulder and puts it on his left foot, Nuno Tavares is just completely lost, right? And another one, Saka's only got a left foot. So why aren't we forcing him outside? Like that's the thing, like basic defending. And yes, Lucas Verissimo lost Aubameyang behind him on that cross. But if we eliminate it from the beginning, that doesn't ever happen, right? Exactly. And I think it's just lazy defending. It's not like he beat him one-on-one and got the cross in, right? Like it was just he was literally 5 yards off him. Like you can't let him do that. And he did it against Sporting. And I think it just shows that he's not, and we've said it before, I don't think he's cut out for the bench, let alone the team in general.
Yeah.
I just don't see it. And he's young, right? Who knows? He could develop. But again, Benfica didn't get eliminated because of him, right? I just want to make sure that we put that out there, right? Because we shouldn't have conceded that second goal. We should have controlled the game a lot better, being up 2 goals. But to concede a goal like that in the 88th minute, it's just like such a kick in the nuts. And unfortunately, JJ was kind of his hands were tied, right? Like who else does he put in? Does he put Servi in against Saka, right? Like you got a natural left back on the pitch. 80 he came in 85th minute.
And 3 minutes later.
Right, like
or
2-2,
yeah.
right? And they scored in the 87th, 2 minutes.
2 minutes. So that's what's frustrating, you know? That's what's frustrating with him. And if like I've gone back and looked at that Spartan goal in this one, right? You look at his attempt at, blocking the cross.
Similar.
He's just like it's similar. It's just lazy. He's not focused.
Yep.
Like, dude, you're in there.
It doesn't close down at all.
No. You're like you have to be mindful. Like, dude, you're through right now. You're gonna go in. You got fresh legs, dude. Do anything you can.
You got to get tight.
Yeah. And it's just like he's just in there, whatever, Like it's frustrating, and that's my problem with him. I'm not. I agree though. I don't think he's a player for Benfica's roster. Not on the bench, nothing. But it is what it is.
No, but what my question is, what is up? Is it did Grimaldo's COVID not recover? Why does he have to come out every freaking game at the 60th, 70th minute?
I don't know. I mean, he clearly had some hamstring issues. He was holding on to his hamstring. Again, the thing,
I don't know.
Right? And like the COVID thing, right? Like some people apparently react to it differently. Some people it impacts them more, right? And I don't know. I don't know what's going on, right? But regardless, like the fact that Benfica can't have a guy coming off the bench to hold a result with 5+ stoppage time left is extremely concerning, right? But I think it goes back to a lot of our problems that we've had for years, right? We don't have adequate right backs. We don't have adequate left backs, right? Like we've talked about it before. When was the last time Benfica had 2 good on each side? Can you think of it? Like Coentrão. Who was Coentrão's backup?
There was one time that we had Cicada in the left and another good backup, and I forget if it was Fizes or if it was. I know Cicada took a good guy's spot. Maybe it might have been Coentrão, to be honest with you.
I don't remember.
Cicada.
Yeah, Cicada was good. And then on the right side, we've always had the guy. We were like André Almeida. We had Maxi and André Almeida. Like those guys could hack it on the right side. And Miguel.
We had Eliseu on the left too.
Eliseu, yeah.
So what I'm saying is, for the most part, we had like the one option, right? Like rarely did we have a good second option, right? And then lately, we're
adapting players to the position.
Correct. Yeah, and that's what's frustrating, right? The fact that you're 2-2 in a Europa League match, you're going through, even at 2-2.
Look at the other side. Diogo Gonçalves is adapted to that, right? He's not a natural left, back, but
yeah, and looking at the fact that you're 2-2, even at 2-2, Arsenal didn't look like they had it in them to get anything out of it. Like they just looked so lethargic. It almost like they had basically conceded, right? Like there was a couple of times Benfica went into their midfield and then just knocked it around a little bit, but there was no urgency from Arsenal. Like I didn't see any urgency from them. And then from this one play, they fucking pull a rabbit out of a hat, and it's so annoying because I felt like Benfica was in control.
But for me, I mean, I look like Arsenal's got a Aubameyang. You know that goal could happen at any time. Yeah, maybe he's struggled this year, but at the end of the day, there's world-class talent on that other side. Whereas ours was Rafa. For me, Rafa was really the only threat. I don't think anyone else was gonna, unless we got a PK or another free kick or something. But that was the only firepower we had. I will say though too, I am starting to like the way we play with the new system with the three in the back, the diamond in the middle. I think in this game especially, like you said, like it almost looked like we were possessing the ball way more than I know. What it ended up being almost 50-50, but it almost felt
40,
like, especially in that second.
Let me see, I got it here. It was 47-53.
53. But it almost, there was a time in that second half where we were like really controlling the ball, and it was kind of weird to see. And I'm starting to like that system. And then the next game we go back to the 4, and we look like a hot mess in the midfield. So I do like that triangle in the middle setup.
I think that triangle gives Weigl a little bit more ability to get further up, right? And he's really starting to establish himself, and him being able to occupy space further up the pitch, I think gives us a better reaction to the loss of possession. Right? JJ's talking about him being more aggressive off the ball, and him playing deeper, I think creates that gap because Tarap's not very disciplined defensively, right? He's normally going to roam and he's going to get up and wide. And then defensively, he doesn't occupy space well, right? So then it leaves Weigl basically a one-man show in the midfield trying to, right? And Weigel's been getting better, right? I think he's made significant strides. Oh, yeah. But he's not a guy like Aphasia. He's not a guy like Javi Garcia. He occupies space well, but I just want, and it was a good segue into this comment that I wanted to make. He's not a guy that's going to, how many times do we remember seeing Aphasia, Javi Garcia, Matic,
Somebody's
in the offensive end, right, and stopping a play with a foul, right, further up the pitch, they read it, they get there, they foul, bang, get off the ball, back up, the team gets back into shape. Benfica had 3 fouls against Arsenal, 3, up 2-1. They tie it 2-2. Like that would have been the perfect opportunity to just petty fouls up the pitch, slow the game down. And they did it, like 3 fouls we had the whole game. Like, it's mind-blowing to me. Like, I feel like that is so telling of the lack of aggression that this team has.
Inexperience. It feels like they're not experienced. It feels like they don't have that kind of maturity that a team like a top team should have. Like, they don't have it. They lack that. They play like, oh, we're winning, let's keep playing like the way we are playing. No, they have to change the mentality during the game to a mature team would do. Like you see, like any top team in Benfica's situation, like you said, they would slow the game down. They would try to like do small fouls up top so the game stops. They don't want to get the other team, which is Arsenal, which is not a joke of a team, like time on the ball and just and getting fluidity of the game. They don't want to do that, but Benfica lacks maturity. They lack the experience right now.
Yeah, and I think overall I think both teams are in obviously a difficult season. Arsenal, I think, are 10th now. In the standings wise, Benfica's not as bad as them, but season's been disappointing. I think the difference maker was what you said, Kenny, right? They have a guy like Aubameyang, right? Arsenal, I see a lot of struggles similar to what Benfica is going through this year. The difference is that they have a whole other level of players at their disposal, right? Guys that from 1 minute to the next can decide. Aubameyang could, he missed that sitter against us in the first game, right? And then he bounces back and scores 2 goals, right? I think he scored 3, and one of them was offsides, or 2 might have been offsides. But that's the difference, right? They have a completely different caliber of talent to decide those games in one moment, and that's what it came down to.
Yeah, and you know what I find funny? It's like I hear sometimes people are like, "Oh, Benfica," but Benfica's got all these international players, right? They play for their selections or whatever. I'm like, you're talking about Aubameyang and Seferovic. Yeah, Seferovic's an international, but like let's not compare just because they're international players that they're the same type of player. No, there's miles difference, and regardless. So
Miles,
whatever you want to call it.
It's like
more than miles,
like planets.
So let's not get confused about that.
I agree. Just to close off this game, Kenny, who did you think was the man of the match for you?
So I mean, for the game, Aubameyang for me is the man of the match. Now, if you want, if I'm talking just Benfica, I would say Rafa. I just thought he came to play.
Fair. Oscar?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I like the kid. I like Diogo Gonçalves. He not only because he scored an awesome free kick. I felt like he's gaining that confidence, like and showed it against a team like Arsenal, and he had fast wingers on that side. I know that goal, the second goal, is on that side, but I don't blame Diogo. It's Everton right there. Like Everton's one covering the left back. It shouldn't be Diogo Gonçalves covering the left back. So yeah, I think Diogo had a game. I like Rafa too. Like Kenny said, he was the guy bringing the Benfica forward. But I like Diogo for my man of the match, especially that goal was really nice.
Yeah, I was torn between the two of them, and Weigl, obviously the normal. I would say Rafa as well, just because he was the only one. But again, it seems like that's been the case for the most of the season, where if Rafa's off, the team's off. If PC's off, the team's off. If they're on, the team's on, right? Like, we're so dependent of those two players, it seems, that it's frustrating, to say the least.
Because our forwards suck.
We'll get there.
I mean, I just want to bring this up, right? Because I'm starting to see kind of how, in a way, Benfica has gradually gotten better at different sectors of the game, right? So defensively, I feel like we've gotten pretty strong there, right? We started off pretty poorly. We've kind of solidified the defense. Midfield's kind of coming along now with Weigl coming into his own and some other players kind of
even Tarat is playing better.
Tarat stepped up. Now, if only we could the final third, right? That is the Everton, Darwin. I mean, Steph is scoring, but he still misses. Luka. All the attackers need to finally learn how to finish. I mean, that'll transition over to my points in Rio Ave, the Rio Ave game. But slowly, I feel like we are evolving. It's just taking the whole season to get there.
Yeah, but the thing is, and I agree with that. Like, we were at the beginning, we were all critics of we're scoring all these goals but conceding all these goals, right? So our offense came in hot. Luka's scoring goals left and right. Darwin scoring in Europe left and right. Our defense was horrible. Like, we talked about Gilberto being a worst player. We talked about our Tavares, because the Grimaldo wasn't there. Tavares being the worst player, not plays for Benfica. Then we talked about our Otamendi being a Portista playing for Benfica and trying to throw the league. And at the time, only Vertonghen was the guy that was like the only person that, all right, he's quiet, let him play, he's all right. And then now the defense, but the thing is, and we'll talk about Gilberto later, right? But he's making changes that I don't know if are needed, right?
Goalie,
the right back, right? So he's making these changes to I want him to fix something else that's not working. The stuff that's working, but we'll get to the Gilberto and Diogo's topic. But yeah, I agree with you. It's slowly. We just need one more section and then combine it all. I want the midfield to play good at that role and then connect to the forwards. I want the defense to play good in that role and connect to the midfield. Once that combines, the season is going to be over and then we'll sell off these players.
Start all over again next year.
Yeah, it'll be preseason. Jeff in the comments says, and he's a Porto fan. 100 million plus team has to do more against a team that's not doing well and in 10th place. I get it, but the money isn't what plays, right? If Benfica's got a 100 million plus team, what's Arsenal? Arsenal had a 84 million pound player on the bench, Pepe. right? So Benfica, if we're expecting more from Benfica, yes, Arsenal's in 10th place, but Arsenal's league is far more competitive than our league, right? Arsenal's first place most likely in our league, right? Whereas it's just a different animal.
Arsenal's still Arsenal.
You really can't. You really look. Just a team that's in 6th place, 7th place, 8th place in England has the Ruben Neves, João Moutinho's, the freaking Nelson Semedos of the world. Okay, a team that's in 7th place or 8th place in the EPL beats Liverpool 7-1. Like, tell me when a team in Portugal, Passo Ferreira, is going to beat Porto, Benfica, Sporting 7-1.
And
like,
look,
you can't compare that. You can't compare that.
Yeah, and we got to be realistic here, right? At the beginning of the season, we looked at it, 100 million, Benfica's stacked, they got all these new players. I was saying it, we all were saying, we're gonna make it to the final of Europa. Well, guess what? Reality hit us. We're not as good as we expected to be. And looking from game to game, I mean, Benfica against Arsenal, there's just we were there, we could have done it, but at the end of the day, there's too much of a difference, and Benfica has way too many holes and weaknesses to overcome, the quality of Arsenal. So, I mean, it is what it is. put the money in there, but it is what it is.
Mario coming in with a hot take here. Let's compare Braga's budget to Porto's budget and ask why they lost to 10 men today. I like
well done. Well done. We won't go there. We won't go there because we're struggling too. So.
But if it was 11 against 11, it would have been 5-6-0, right?
5 or 6, Mario also said Diogo is exciting to see. He's a bright spot that I can see growing on a future Benfica team. I think he's definitely grown into that role. I think he got some defensive frailties, but I don't think he's less of a defensive player than Grimaldo, for example. Right? Obviously, Grimaldo's been doing it longer. That's his natural position. But I think with time, if he continues to play in that role, I think he could grow, and that's one of our topics to touch on later.
I watched Diogo Gonçalves play a lot in the U21, and he's a great winger in the U21 team, right? I feel him playing the right back position, and maybe he'll turn out to be a Fábio Contrao, right? Like start off as a promising winger and then become a solid left back, or in this case, a right back, right? But if I was Diogo, I don't know if I would take that route. I don't know if I would give up being a promising winger to become a promising right back. I don't know. He looked really good for the U21 national team.
He was good last year at Famalicão. He was right.
And as a winger.
As a winger, yeah.
So I guess we'll touch on that topic now since we're already on it, and then we'll skip ahead to the Rio Ave game. To just touching on your point, Oscar, right? Does he want to give up the potential of being a winger, right? At the end of the day, if he spends 2 years at Benfica, 3 years at Benfica, right, and he becomes a good right back, right? Maxi Pereira wasn't a right back, right? He was a midfielder, right? And he adapted because he was right? And then Almeida was a defensive midfielder. Fábio Contrao was, attacker in a front three. He was a winger. But you think about it, he's still young, right? Like if he spends, say, 2-3 years at Benfica and he adapts to a right back position, he's playing regularly at a club like Benfica. He's going to get good money. He's going to get good exposure. He's still going to have to attack, right? So his attacking game's still there, and he's improving his defensive game, right? So if anything, he's becoming more of a well-rounded player, right? Because now he's got both sides of it, and he's capable of playing further up the pitch. Right? So now he becomes more of a resource as well.
I think he's better in the three back system, right? He's gonna fit in better because he's gonna be more dangerous going up. So I think that's to his benefit. But I agree with you. I think it makes him a more well-rounded player. One thing I was gonna say is, if he can take it, it's funny because we have two of our best free kick takers are left backs, left and right back. Diogo. I mean, if Diogo Gonçalves can hit.
Diogo scored one free kick.
Okay, but I'm just saying. Well, this is. I mean, it was a pretty great free kick. He also doesn't play to show. He doesn't play to show it. If he has this in his back pocket, I mean, Grimaldo's amazing with his left foot. If he's got this in his back pocket, that's just another thing that he can add to the team. Because who else takes free kicks like that? Besides, Grimaldo's our go-to from the left side. From the right side, it's no one really showed. But he hasn't scored. Has he scored any this year? He has?
I don't think he has.
Not this year, but he scored free kicks.
He scored some, he hasn't scored any. Even Grimaldo hasn't scored I think he scored
He
one
won-
maybe this year,
He
but
scored
he hasn't
a
been as
couple.
consistent. Has he? I don't remember.
I thought he scored a couple, but I could be wrong. But he's definitely our best from the left
Yeah.
side. He's definitely. But it's
Do you
just
think-
funny that they're
Go ahead.
defenders. They're natural. I mean, more like defenders taking free kicks like that.
Do you guys think that JJ said today in his press conference talking about the Rio Ave game or the Estoril game that o Gilberto agora vai ter que competir com o Diogo, porque o Diogo é o que tem estado a jogar. So for those in English, Gilberto is going to have to compete now with with Diogo because he's the one that's been playing more regularly. Given his performances recently, do you think that it's his spot to lose, Kenny?
So my opinion on this is any competition is good competition. So I'm glad that they're both playing well and that they should compete for the spot, right? They're just going to push each other in training sessions. I personally don't think Gilberto did anything to lose the spot, but there must have been, I really don't know what happened. I don't know if it was COVID or whatever, where Gilberto took a back seat and Diogo was kind of taken over. If that's the way that he wants to play, if Jesus wants to do that, fine. But I just hope it doesn't mentally screw up with the player and division in the locker room, because I can see it with Odysseus. Doesn't, from my understanding, doesn't seem to be happy with the change that happened there. So I hope that those type of things aren't creeping into the locker room and affecting the team in a different way. But I do agree, like if they're both playing well, competition's good. I don't mind that at all.
Oscar, what do you think?
I agree. I totally agree. Competition is good, but I think it should be his spot to lose when somebody fucks up, right? So like say Gilberto fucked up and Diogo played in the next game and Diogo did awesome, then yeah, it's Diogo's spot to lose. I think Gilberto maybe that but Gilberto got COVID. I thought it was way before. When Gilberto got COVID? Was it recently?
I think Gilberto was the one with that big spell of them after the Porto game.
Okay, so he's been back and playing since that COVID thing, right?
Yeah, he's been available.
Wasn't it like, all right? So to me,
and he also had a knock too. There was one game 2
that
or 3 weeks ago.
He came out like before the game was over.
And then he didn't get called up for the next 2 games. I don't think he was called up for Arsenal's first game either because he had muscle fatigue or something.
Right. So in that case, yeah, Diogo started playing and Diogo's playing good. So yeah, now it's Gilberto's turn to play hard in practice and get back to his spot. I just feel like for somebody to lose this, somebody cannot be guaranteed a spot in that team, right? They cannot be say, okay, this is his spot and nobody's going to take it. When he's healthy, he's playing. No, it shouldn't be that way. It should be if somebody gets hurt and somebody comes in, that somebody's playing like exactly like how they're supposed to be playing, and they make up the position perfectly, then it should be their spot to lose. And I agree with that. But good competition is good competition. Like I agree with Kenny as well.
Yeah, I think we also have to, and as fans, I think we tend to maybe forget about that aspect, but I think it's also important to remember that we don't know what goes on in training, right?
Yeah.
I think it's been a topic of discussion for like Florentino, right? There's been people like Florentino's our best midfielder, blah, 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 right? But there's also rumors that he's lazy as fuck in practice, right? So like we don't know what goes on in these practice sessions, right? Are people putting in the effort, right? I'm not saying that Gilberto's not or whatever the case may be, right? But if Diogo's been playing well, right, and he's stepping up in practice, right, does that give JJ that reason, like you said, right, to make that change, right? Same thing with Odysseus, right? If Elton is doing better in training, right, even though Audi didn't make a mistake in a game, but if he's showing more commitment, in training, naturally we would want to reward that, right? I get that it may cause some friction because, hey, you didn't make that mistake, but I'm going to replace you, right? We don't know what went on behind closed doors, right? We're just reading into what was in the newspapers and how Audi was upset, blah, 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 blah. But I think there's that other element that as fans we tend to disregard, right? Because we're just looking at what's on the surface.
But I'll just say this about Odysseus, and I do think that the goalkeeper is kind of a different animal. But for me, even though Elton Leite hasn't suffered any bad goals or done anything drastically bad to I guess lose a spot. But to me, I think Odysseus is still an overall better goalkeeper when he starts on the team. Like with his late with his feet, I don't think he's as good. He misses a lot of long ball passes, and he just seems shaky. Like there's just situations sometimes where I think it was Jardel went like headed the ball back or something, and he could have picked it up, and he didn't. He ended up kicking it. There's just situations where he like makes little bit goofy things. And for me, I think if Odysseus is healthy, I think overall, and again, we don't know what happens in the locker room or in training, but when it's game time, I think Odysseus is a better goalkeeper overall than Elton Late, in my opinion.
I think I guess before I mention that, thanks for the feedback, Jeff. Good to hear some positive feedback from a Porto fan. I think that I agree with you. Elton's not as good with his feet, and I think the team, if you notice, the team almost has like an uncertainty when they play the ball back to him.
Yes.
It almost it's like they're nervous to play the ball to his feet.
A lot of times they kick it out.
Yeah, and again, he doesn't help us getting the ball out, right? Like it's good to have a goalkeeper that can play with his feet because it gives you that other option, right? Ederson, for example, right? You give him the fucking ball, he's going to put it on a platter, right, for someone up the field, right? But those guys are few and far between. But I noticed that the team almost is anxious when they have to use him with the ball at his feet. But I will say that I'm a fan of Audi, but I think that Elton Late is better controlling the balls over the top than Odysseus is. He's better off his line. He comes out quicker. He controls it a little bit better. Just think about how many times in the last 4 or 5 games that we've seen him come out of the box rushing to clear a ball. He did it a couple of times, once or twice against Arsenal. I remember he did it against Ferenc. So I think that's, in the global aspect of it, I think that's the one thing that he's better than Audi at. I think Audi's better with his feet, but I think in the grand scheme of things, in the way Benfica plays, I think that's probably why JJ likes him more, because he gives you that option to cover for the defenders who aren't that quick. And if anything gets played over the top, you got someone there to sweep it up. Whereas Odysseus isn't as good coming off the line.
Yeah, but that's just assuming, because this year we haven't had those plays.
Correct.
For Odysseus. Odysseus has a mess. I've seen it previously, yes, in the previous years. But people grow. Odysseus is young,
right.
and this year he had no mistakes like that.
No,
so for him to lose his spot is like...
Well, he did. He had one against Braga.
Yeah. Who do you want to blame?
I mean, I would blame him. He's facing the ball. Yeah, because that was you were against Otamendi at the time. Odysseus facing the ball. Otamendi's running backwards. Moving on. So we covered Diogo's conversation. Moving on to the Rio Ave game. So Benfica played Monday against Rio Ave. A game of 2 halves. Let's see. Let's bring this up here on the screen. We had Rio Ave. So we had Elton Late. We went back to a 4. Grimaldo, Jardel, Verissimo, Diogo started again. Weigl, Tarat, Rafa, Everton, Seth, and Waldo gets to start again. In terms of statistics, we had, let me just share this here. You have 17 shots, 6 on target against 11 shots and 5 on target. 45 actions or plays in the opponent's box, 6 corners for each, 85% pass efficiency, 71% vertical pass efficiency, 19 defensive activities in our opponent's midfield, which I think is telling, because in that second half, we were much better reacting to the loss of possession. 17 fouls.
The first, if you just looked at the first half stats, you look at these stats, you wouldn't believe that it was the same game, So.
Yeah. 59% possession against 41. But I think of these stats, I think the 19 actions, defensive actions in the opponent's midfield, and the 17 fouls, right? A game that you would have thought that number would be on the other side, right? First half, I thought Benfica was a mess. They looked unorganized. they could have been losing. Everton hit the crossbar, but apart from that, Rio Ave, I think, had the clear-cut chances.
Mhm.
And then second half, I don't know what the hell happened at halftime, but normally second halves have been worse for us.
Right.
And in the second half, they came out guns blazing. Like, we started to see a little bit of what we normally saw with JJ. High press, reacting to the loss of possession, suffocating them in their defensive third, creating shit tons of chances, missing a shit ton of chances.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we were able to get 2 goals.
Yeah.
Oscar, I'll start with you this time. What did you think of that game?
Well, you guys just said it. Like the first half, I was watching the game, and then I think we missed one pretty early on. I think it was like 5 minutes in or whatnot. I think it was a Sevilla miss. Oh, no, it was Everton that hit the crossbar.
Yeah.
And then we had freaking their forward hit the inside of the post. I don't know how that didn't go in.
Yep.
And that was 20 minutes in. And then Rio Ave had the most chances in the first half. Like it was like unbelievable. I'm like, there's another game. We just played decent against Arsenal and we're going to shit again, right? So second half comes along, and then I saw it was chance after chance. I think Seferovic, it was harder for him to miss and score, and he seemed to miss all of them. I'm like, dude, if you just put the net, I don't get this guy. I mean, like we always said, like he takes him 10 chances to score 1. It's true. It's very true. This guy is a 10 chance guy to score 1. And the goal that he scored, if you guys noticed, hit the guy's leg, or else the goal.
Yes.
Or else the goalie would have had it. And then he was like almost like, hey, see, I'm the man, because he just looked away like it's Cantona or some shit like that. I'm like, dude, you shanked that. The ball hit the guy's leg, or else you would have saved it. And then we had Pizzi come in, and Pizzi came in with show some garra, right? He wanted to score. He definitely wanted to score. He missed 2 sitters as well, and then he scored that one through the goalie. I don't know how that went through. It just went through
deflected
the goalie.
Too, I think.
I don't know. I think it's some spin or something. Like I know it went through there's a shot right at the goalie, and then all of a sudden it went through the goalie. I'm like, dude, well, like a FIFA goal. I'm like, the ball went through the player. But it was just but I'll say one thing. This is probably the first game that I see Benfica is creating all these chances in a long time. So in Rio Ave is not a joke team. It's a team that went too far in Europe. That it should have beat AC Milan. So it's not like they have a good forwards that can run, that can counterattack, and I was scared for that. And we second half is exactly what I thought. And I think these turns a page on Benfica. I think you'll see it tomorrow again. We're gonna win easy, and I think it's because the second half motivated the players to what's coming. Usually, as we play a good first half, and then second half is what kills us. And the next game we go like do mobilizados para the next game, right? So this game is almost the opposite. The first half sucked, but we got motivated the second, and it feels like we're going to the next game motivated.
I hope you're right. Kenny, what are your thoughts?
So I have a bit of a different view on this game, right? So despite the 2-0, I was not very happy with this performance. We had a much better second half than the first, but like Oscar said, we only scored 2 goals. We probably had about 5 or 6 chances. We missed a ton, and we continue to miss a ton. But Rio Ave could have easily done the same thing in the first. They could have easily had 2 goals in the first. So this could have been a 2-2 game, and I would not have been surprised whatsoever. What I think happened in this game, first of all, it was definitely a must-win. I think, even though Jesus says he wouldn't resign, and Luis Filipe said that he wouldn't fire him. I think if Benfica were to lose points again against Rio Ave, I think there had to be some sort of change, because it would have been too much. So I think this was a must-win game, and they did win. But Benfica looked awful in the first. They went back to the 4-4-2 system. You can see that we don't play well with 4-4-2 in the midfield. We had control, like we were controlling the ball, but we just cannot penetrate in the final third. There is, again, back to the conversation, like our final third is terrible. They need to, the defense has gotten better, the midfield's gotten better. The forwards they just can't score. Luka looked lost again. He's just not up to par like he was at the beginning of the season. And yeah, Rio Ave for me could have easily had 2 goals. The second half, we played much better, but I also think Rio Ave opened up a little bit more. I think Rio Ave goes into the second half 0-0. They know Benfica's been struggling all year. They're going to go I think they went for the win, right? They opened up, and that helped us create more chances. Real chances, not just fake chances in the first half where we were just circling the ball and take a shot from anywhere and see what happened. Like, we had a lot more dangerous chances in the second half. But I mean, the misses, like, it's a lack of confidence. It's I don't know if it's I'm almost debating now if it's a lack of confidence or a lack of skill, because these misses, like, a blind guy could put the ball in the net at this point in the position that Seferovic is. He doesn't have to do anything except touch, encostar o pé a bola for it to go in, and he's like missing it ridiculously. Pizzi, another one, like that's an easy goal right at the end that he misses. So I wasn't that impressed. Yeah, we dominated the second half. We created, it looked nicer, it looked better, but I also think Rio Ave was going for it, knowing that Benfica's difficulties all season, and it opened up the game for us to look better. So I think it's one of those, like, I'm not going to get all too excited because I know we can go from a win back to a loss very easily against Estoril. Like, we could look just like as dumb as Porto did today. And yeah, Porto looked pretty dumb today. And Benfica could look just as dumb tomorrow. So I'm not going to let this 2-0 go to my head. It was a must win. He did the job. Jesus can now kind of sit back and relax on his job as safe for now. But yeah, I think, it was, I don't know. I'm not going to get all hyped about it.
I agree. Yeah, there was, again, like you said, that first half could have been far worse if they had taken their chances, right? But then again, the game could have been different if Everton scores that goal early on. So, it's a half, what is it? Dozen half, or half dozen one, or dozen the other. I don't even know what the fuck the saying is, but
Yeah,
basically could have gone either way.
It's true.
And fortunately, they didn't score in that first half, because I think if they score, Benfica probably struggles. And I just wanted to touch on one thing before we go to the player of the game. But what did you guys think of Verissimo and Jardel, two center backs that haven't played together? Jardel is just coming back from the injury. I was nervous, thinking that we could see some miscommunication, some lack. And I think that some of the stuff that happened in that first half, some of those open spaces, I think come with the lack of understanding between the two of them, who comes out to the ball, who drops off. But overall, I was happy with what I saw. And then the other comment I want to make, and then I'll open it up to you guys, is how many corner kicks does Benfica have to take to score a goddamn goal? It's corner kicks and set pieces. Like, corner kicks, they're like floated. We never do anything with them. And set pieces, they never get past the first defender. Yeah. I don't understand. We got so many tall guys, and the fucking cross doesn't get past the first guy. I don't understand.
Yeah, the crosses are bad, in my opinion. Like, the balls coming into the box they don't help us. I actually think Luka had a pretty good had a couple of good crosses from corner kicks. But yeah, I agree. We're not dangerous at all from set pieces.
No, we've scored one corner. We've scored one corner this season.
It was up to
Ruben Diaz.
Ruben
Diaz.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
And Vertonghen scored one too, but I don't think it was for the league.
Yeah, but
I think it was against Villafranquense or something.
I feel like this team, these, especially the center backs and our team, are not like the normal center backs where they attack the ball at all. If by a ball or guys, like ours is like, feels like every single cross that we get into the box, it's cleared. There's not one chance that we win a ball in the box. And then if we do win the ball in the box, feels like we're defending on our side. We're hitting it up. Like, it's almost like we try purposely to get it up over the net. So with no danger here. It's better to go outside of out of bounds than create danger. So I feel like we don't have anybody to attack other than our center backs. Who do we have there to attack on the air? Nobody. Mm-hmm. We have our forwards. I don't think Darwin knows how to head the ball. I think he did it once. I think maybe at the beginning against Rangers.
He scored two.
Yeah, he had one against Moreirense.
And against the
Like I
Rangers,
saved
against Rangers, he had a nice header, right? But Seferovic, I think he closes his eyes. I think Darwin closes his eyes. And then the center backs, we have Otamendi. I don't know how tall the guy is, but I'm pretty sure he's not as tall as normal center backs. So, and then we have Vertonghen, and Vertonghen feels like he's clearing the ball instead of hitting it on the net. So I don't know what do you guys want this team to do. I don't think we don't have anybody.
I'm sure. I don't know. You probably don't have the stats on this, but I'm trying to remember back in the Jesus 1.0 if we were a dangerous, as dangerous.
Yes, we were.
We were more
Dude,
dangerous.
we had Luizão and Garay. Those guys scored every other game.
Yeah, so maybe it's just the quality of player.
Dude, remember against Tottenham, Luizão and Garay with the goal scorers. Like
2 goals.
Like we had Luizão and Garay, Liverpool, Luizão scored. Against Sporting, Luizão scored. Like we had those center backs, like when we had Luizão and Garay, it's almost they were in the corner kick, they're the guys that you play to because they're gonna get it on net. And now we don't have that.
This is almost like you know how, like I'm one that like on corner kicks I want the ball in, but like considering that we don't have the players for that, I actually prefer the short corners than putting the ball into the mix because we're not that dangerous to begin with. But we don't. Now it's like the opposite. Yeah, we don't do short corners.
No,
like
but
we did them against Rio Ave, and we fucking we literally passed it around again.
Yeah.
It was like the corner was a waste.
Now we're gonna do
corners
the
a waste
around.
anyways.
I know, but there was a couple of corners that we had where our center backs were up, and then we took a short corner. We brought it back to Diogo Gonçalves at the midfield line, and then our center backs hung out because they thought we were going to play a cross in, and then we moved it around again, and then the center backs just like retreated. So it's just like the corner kick is supposed to be like an advantage for you, right? Like to try to set piece, put the ball in the box. I think of like the years of when Otamendi was with Porto, right? Like I don't know, maybe it's just a different energy level that they have. I don't know, but like he was a fucking monster. Right, like anything in the air, he was winning it. Right, and I don't know if it's the quality of the players in the box more than the quality of the ball into the box. That's what I think is probably the bigger issue, right? Because how often do we even get our head on the ball? Right, like we don't even get our head on the ball, right? And I can't convince myself that Vertonghen scored goals in the EPL for Spurs. Otamendi's an aggressive player in the air, on the ground. I can't convince myself that they all of a sudden forgot how to play ball in the air. Like, I just can't convince myself. It's more likely that the service into the box is basically close my eyes, I'm going to put it in the box, and hopefully someone finds it.
Who's the one putting the balls in? Isn't it Pizzi?
Corner kicks is Grimaldo and Pizzi, one from each side.
Pizzi, Raf, Everton, Waldo.
Grimaldo.
But mostly Pizzi when he's in there.
Mostly Pizzi.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's an interesting stat.
You look at the game. You look at the corner kicks. They're hitting the spot where it's supposed to be, the penalty kick spot, right? That's. I mean, maybe you should hit them harder, lower. I don't know, but
they're floaters. They're floaters.
Yeah. It's funny because like they'll get to the corner flag and they're like 2 hands up, okay, studied play, and then we never even fucking.
You know what 2 hands up means, right?
Huh?
Well. For you, it might be one thing. Yeah.
It's second post.
You don't know that, though. I mean, JJ's always playing these tricky.
2 hands up, the ball goes second post.
JJ's always playing these trick plays.
But if like the stats are showing that we're not that good at corner kicks, why wouldn't Jesus in practice like train set plays there? Even if you just get like a shitty shot on, it's better than floating the ball up there and getting nothing out of it.
How many times have we played a short corner with someone coming short, someone running in, give and go, and then they come into line? We did it against Pawok. We've done it in the league. It works well, right? But again, like when we get the ball into the box, it's like we never – I don't know if the players don't attack it well. The service isn't good. I don't know. But it's an interesting stat to see how many corners we've had this year with the center backs that we have, and we literally, I think, have 1 goal in the season, which was Ruben Diaz against Moreirense in his last game.
That's a bit of coaching too. I mean, you gotta be clever on those, especially if you're seeing a trend, you got to change it up. But I haven't really noticed.
Do you guys, like I said this in a previous podcast, but do you guys remember the Jesus first time around? Everybody in the box was jumping, ready to attack the ball. Like, why doesn't – and that worked. I felt like that worked. Everybody in that box was jumping, almost like getting prepared to attack that ball. Now everybody's just like stationary, walking around, waiting for the ball to be lobbed or whatnot, and then just jogging back up. Like I don't feel the I don't know, the initiative, the thing that Jesus used to freaking put in print in these players. I don't see it anymore. I don't see it.
I'm going to be paying more attention though now. Now that you've brought it up, I'm going to be paying more attention to see what they do. Like I want to see if they're setting picks for like there's got to be a target, right?
Yeah.
There's got to be someone that they're aiming for. I want to see like if they're setting picks for whether it's Darwin or Otamendi or Vertonghen to see what kind of stuff they do because I'm curious now because I mean I don't really pay attention on corner
It's crazy.
kicks, but now I'm gonna start focusing on it.
Yeah, it's interesting. Who's your man of the match?
This game is very tough for me to say man of the match. I think I'm gonna go with. I don't know, man. This is a tough one.
I'm going with Weigl. I thought he had a pretty good game. He was pretty good defensively.
Weigl, the thing is, Weigl is to me has been like the most impressive player, almost every game. And then it's most of that since the last 10 games, Weigel's been that guy, right? The guy that probably the MVP of every single game because he's been
for
the
me.
most
It's been
crucial.
Otamendi. For me, it's been
right.
Otamendi.
No, but I'm talking about like he control. If you take Weigl out of the midfield, I don't know what we do, right? So Weigel's been the most crucial player in that midfield role to connect everything, the defense to the attack, right? Weigel's been that guy. So it's almost like who else performed well for me to vote MVP because Weigl is already steady, that guy, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, do I want to give Verissimo a shot because how he looked for the first time playing as with the Jardel? Like I think Verissimo had a good game. I think he read the game very well. He felt confident. So for somebody that played was this the second game he's played? Arsenal did this one.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's I felt like he was impressive. And I see good things coming from him. And even if we lose Otamendi, we're well served if he continues this way.
What did the stat sheet say was the man of the match?
Tarat.
And Tarat had a good game too. He had a good game.
I can't complain.
Yeah, let me see. Let me bring it up here. Tarat was first. Who was second best? Diogo. Everton 6.4. I thought Everton looked good.
He
Better.
did look good.
He got 2 assists.
Yep.
He got 2 assists.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was gonna say Tarat. I thought Tarat looked good, and I had a stat here for him. He had one long pass, and he was successful with it. 6 individual dribbles, and he was successful in all 6. He had 2 fouls against him, 2 defensive actions in the opponent's half. He intercepted 2 balls. I thought he looked good. I think he's looked good in the last 4 or 5 games. He looks like he's starting to find his feet. And the key to it is he's a guy that likes to be on the ball. And for a guy that likes to be on the ball, you can't turn the ball over very often because it's going to be very obvious, right? Whereas if you're a guy that's not on the ball very often and you give it up here and there, you're not constantly center circle, so they're not going to realize it. But he always wants the ball, which I like, but he was losing the ball way too often. But I think he's been much better.
He just has to find that through ball between lines that we're missing, right? We're not getting, because that's what we've been lacking in the final third, is because we possess around the box and we cannot feed that ball through.
Dude, I don't know if you guys remember one play that was like a give and go. Tarat and somebody in the center forward, and then it was just laid back to Tarat, and Tarat put a needle through on
the left.
The left side. I'm like, dude,
and Grimaldo fucked it up. He should have played it first time, and he took a touch.
But that vision is what makes Tarat that player that he is. Like nobody else sees that vision. It was like a needle ball, like legit.
But that's why you need him in the final third, right? If we play a midfield 3 and frees him up to be more adventurous going forward, I think that gives him the ability to play those passes where he's a lot of times in our defensive half chasing guys and hassling them. And he has that ability to play that final pass. It's just he's torching his energy, chasing people, right? And then when it comes time to make that decision, he's not as efficient as we would like to see him.
But have you noticed
Was he
that
involved?
he's coming around when Weigl started finding himself in the midfield? It's like it's freeing him up a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because before none of them knew what role they each had, so they were a little lost in the midfield. As soon as Weigl started finding his role, allowed Taarabt to find his role more in front of him, and that's I think what made both of those players step up their game is them finding their role in the midfield.
I wrote down Pizzi's goal, bem jogado. I can't even remember how it happened, but was Taarabt involved in that? Because I, if I'm not mistaken, it was like a 3 quick little passes. You guys remember the final goal? How it happened?
I do remember. I remember Everton passed the ball, but I can't remember who the hell gave it to him. Hold on, I got the play here. Let me see.
But yeah, that final goal was a nice little play that they had. I don't know if Taarabt was involved with that.
Yeah. We got a question here from Mario. Doing a special for Benfica after 90. Top 3 Brazilians that played for Benfica since 2010. Top 2 is easy. Curious who each of you number 3 would be. Top 2.
It's
Brazilians.
only after 2010.
Top 3 Brazilians that played.
So Luizão's number 1.
Well, Luizão, Jonas, and Lima.
Who's your first 2?
I mean, after 2020, I think Luizão was more
2010.
2010, but I mean, if Luizão,
but Luizão didn't retire till 2000.
Right, but
16, 17.
But was he our? Yeah, he was, because he was the other guy. So yeah, I say Jonas, Luizão, and Lima are top 3 since 2010. We had Rodrigo too, but he's Spanish.
I was thinking. Spanish. Oh, he is. Yeah, that's true.
He was born in Brazil.
I'm trying to think of anybody else.
Ederson.
Ooh.
Oh, that's a good one. But dude, he had 1 year.
Dude, he was a monster though, dude. That guy was a machine coming off the line.
What about Lima, man? Lima was huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tank, he said after 2010. David Luiz. When did David Luiz leave? Oh, he was there with JJ, so he was there after 2010. That's a good take.
Yeah, but he sucked. David Luiz, like, since the Porto game, he sucked.
Mario says Luizão and Jonas. He's saying for the 3rd one, other than Luizão and Jonas, he's struggling to find a 3rd.
But that played at Benfica and was good at Benfica, not overall is good now. Too,
yeah,
because like Ederson's like top fucking. He's
yeah.
Ederson's a good pick.
I think Ederson is in the argument,
even though he was only there for a year. But
I think Lima was there longer.
Lima did more,
and Lima did more for Benfica. I mean, for Benfica. Lima was, dude, just the goal against Juventus alone, what he scored for us, like, the guy was a solid striker. He was. We need Lima today and you still right now at 40 years old, he probably is better than any of the strikers we have.
I'm trying to find out more.
That's an interesting. I mean, there was a bunch of Brazilians after 2010. Tank says no love for David Luiz. We know you like David Luiz.
No, David Luiz. Look,
I'm a fan of him.
He's look how many clubs he's been to since Benfica. That means he's awesome, right?
I mean, he said 2010. Yeah, David was there. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think other Brazilians after 2010. David Luiz, Ederson, Jonas, Lima.
Was the guy that came from, he went to Chelsea.
Ramirez.
Ramirez.
Is he 2010?
Yeah,
he was with JJ. Yeah. But he was only there 1 year too. But he was a machine in that 1 year.
He was.
Yeah,
I'm trying to see more too.
Mario said he picked Lima as well for his 3rd. But Ramirez is another good take too. He had 1 year, but he was a machine that 1 year.
Talisca.
I'm trying to think who else. Fuck Talisca, dude.
Yeah, Talisca. He's good at free kicks.
Yeah.
Who
else did we have?
Artur. Hey, Artur is
Mureto. We had a lot of Brazilians.
No, I like Lima. I like Lima with any striker we had. He's that guy.
I can agree with that. Kenny's doing his research over there on Brazilians.
Dude, there's so many. Remember Alain Kardec?
That's a good per se that I was talking about at the pod.
Man, we've had quite a few Brazilians.
But I don't know anymore that stand out.
Yeah,
I think the ones that we mentioned are the ones that probably stand out.
Cicada's Brazilian too.
Oh,
but
dude, Julio Cesar.
But what did he do at Benfica? He wasn't that impressive at Benfica.
I don't know, dude. He was pretty good.
He came to Benfica after the 7-1.
What does that have to do with it?
He just abriu todo roto.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, how
that's-
many titles did he win for Benfica? Emerson. Get out of here with Emerson, dude. I'm trying to think of how many titles he won with Benfica. He won quite a few, no?
He played
was at
83
what,
matches.
third?
He was 83 matches. I don't know how many. So he was from 2014 to 2017.
I got it here. Benfica, he won the league 14. Julio Cesar. He won the 14-15, 15-16, 16-17. Taça Portugal 16-17, Taça Liga 14-15, and the Super Taça 2016.
But he,
So three championships.
Two of those years, he was riding bench. Emerson had it 1 year. He took it from him, and he was on the bench.
2014-15, he had 23 games in the league. 2015-16, he had 24 games in the league. Only his last two. Only the last season. So he won 2 titles as a starter.
Ederson took his spot last season. His last season.
He won 2 league titles as a starter. He won the Taça Liga as a starter, and the Super Taça as a starter.
All right. Well, there it is.
34 Brazilians during that time period. Not surprised.
There's probably a good top 5, though. I mean,
My brother says Sydney. Get out of here.
God.
Mario says, sorry, I threw you guys off.
Sydney was supposed to be the next big thing. He was supposed to be the next Luizão, and then all of a sudden
he was on loan like every year.
Gary says Oblak was a stud. He still is a stud. Oscar, isn't he your favorite goalie?
Yeah, all time.
Mario, that was a good question. I know you derailed us a little bit, but it was a good question. Felipe Augusto, dude. Get out of here.
Didn't he play against us? He played against us. Yes,
Just now, yeah.
Philippe Menezes, was he after 2010?
Yeah. He played in Revolution. He came to Revolution, and we saw him like smoke. He actually scored that game against the Revs. We went to watch it.
Let's see. Luis Figueiredo's interview. Tank's got a question. We'll answer it at the end of the podcast. Top 5 from Argentina, Benfica. We'll get to it after the end, after this conversation. Luis Figueiredo's interview on Sunday, 117-year anniversary for the club. He came out and had a bunch of topics that he discussed. Again, it's on Benfica TV. It eliminates the risk of getting uncomfortable questions. He had some interesting takes. There's just a few that I have here. In terms of the results, neste momento ninguém baixa os braços, até matematicamente possível. Vamos lutar sermos campeões nacionais. Caso isso não seja possível, o segundo lugar é o objetivo. Basically, no one's given up. We're still working to be champions of the league. If it doesn't happen, second place is our objective. In terms of responsibility, só poderá haver responsável, sou eu, não pode haver mais nenhum. Sócios elegeram-me para ser presidente e na hora da derrota não vale a pena andar à procura de fantasmas. Basically saying, I'm at fault, I'm the president, they elected me, and I'm at fault. There's a few others that I'll touch on, but wanted to get your thoughts, Kenny. What did you think of the interview? Did you like anything? Did anything stand out?
So I watched the Portuguese version of O Cantinho Benfiquista the other night. It was Luis, Zé, and João. Was it João? Yeah. So I honestly almost 100% agree with João. My mindset is the same as his. So just to kind of paraphrase a little bit, and I'll cherry pick off of what he had talked about. So I guess you would consider, a lot of people would consider Vieirista, right? I stand with Luis Felipe Vieira. I think that one thing that's very crucial that I had a problem with him in the past podcasts was that I wanted him to show face. And he did. Unfortunately, he waited for the day where he's going on to do an interview about the anniversary of the club, and it takes away from the anniversary of the club, because now he's got to answer to all these questions that he took so long to stand in front of a camera to talk about. So the anniversary turned into, defending himself of the situation that the club's in. So for me, I don't like that. I think he should have came out earlier and said something. Now, in the interview, he said, my responsibilities are my responsibilities. I have a director of the club in Rui Costa. He came out and he spoke to you guys. Jesus is the coach. He's speaking about it. Like, I have other functions. And I kind of agree. Take it easy. But I kind of agree, because listen, he's the president of the club. He's focused on bringing credibility, which he has done a fantastic job in doing, right? Bringing stability to the club from the dark ages, bringing back credibility to the club, and keeping the club at the top level, innovating throughout these years, keeping it relevant, right? You look at a lot of clubs in the world. Benfica is a well-branded club. Like, we have all the, we're not just another club. We're an example around the world for the Seychelles, keeping up with websites, social media, everything. We're no slouch. And that's all credit to him. He's kept us relevant throughout, coming from where we were, right, during that dark period to where we are now. And that's his function. That's his wheelhouse. That's what he's responsible for mainly, is to keeping that. Now, obviously, the coaching, like hiring of the coaching, hiring of the data sound, hiring of the players, he has something to do with that. But he has a scouting program. He has directors that handle that. And and I kind of agree to that aspect, that a lot of the blame, and look, he came out and he said, I'm going to, I'm responsible for this, right? I'm at the forefront of the club. I'm going to be responsible for this. Of course he's going to say that. He's not going to say otherwise. But I think that a lot of what's going on right now with the results, like Benfica, the president gave Jesus every chance, or every not chance, but every piece, or I'm not getting the word right now, but everything that he needed to put together a good season. Yeah, every condition to put together a good season. And you can't blame him for that. Like, in the beginning of the season, like I said earlier, everyone thought that it's gonna be a cakewalk this year with all the investment that we made. It was gonna be a cakewalk in Europa. It hasn't panned out, but he put the conditions there. Like, he has the club in a position where he can spend $100 million on players. He can do these things, and the results came. I think we're the only club that put a positive in the.
Yeah, but those numbers are a fluke, because those numbers don't reference all of the transfers that we made.
Okay, so. And I'm not. I don't get into that much detail.
They manipulate that in a way to make it look like.
Okay.
Right. I'm afraid to see what the numbers look like in the next Relatorio, which is going to be scary.
All right, fair enough. I don't look that deep into it, so I don't really know. But based on what he said in the interview, that's what it was. But yeah, I mean, I agree with a lot of what he had to say, and. The thing about, I hear a lot of people also say, like, oh, he's just holding his seat. He just runs this as his business. He doesn't care about the football. Like, what are you talking about? Like, he spent if he didn't spend the amount of money he spent and you were having a terrible season, you would be complaining the same way that, we sold Jean Felix for 125 million. We don't spend the money now when we needed to. Like, look at where we are. Like, damned if you do, damned if you don't. And that's it. And he knows that that's his position, and that's where he stands. And unfortunately, he has to deal with that. But I mean, I think he was the right man to continue the presidency for the next 4 years, going through this COVID crisis. And I stand with him. I agree with a lot he had to say. And yeah, those were some of my hot takes from it.
Cynthia doesn't agree with you.
Cynthia, we're all different.
She said he had a great idea a decade ago. Oscar.
All right, my take on Luis Vieira. I actually just watched the whole interview today. So it was my homework to watch that thing. And he just came to confirm everything that I thought and I've been preaching about the last few podcasts. I don't know if you guys remember, but he was a guy of the Seychelles, right? That's what he preached on. That's what he ran as elections, is Seychelles, right? And Jesus was not a Seychelles guy, right? Jesus won the campeonatos that he won by getting players from outside, international players. He got the Javi Garcias, he got the Enzos, he got players that, even though they had no big names yet, it were players from outside, not from Seychelles, right? So when Jesus left, Vieira took that chance to, okay, let's go with Rio Vitória and start investing more in the Seychelles. That's our plan. That's what we want. We wanted to go to Europe and win something with house players, right? Seychelles. We did well with Rio Vitória. We went far in the Champions League. And then obviously we had a few bad results, and the fans obviously are not patient. Rio Vitória out, Bruno Lage comes in. More Seychelles, continuing the Seychelles plan, right? We got the Jean Felix is up. We got what's the guy that Florentino's up and all those guys. And then the Seychelles failed, right? On Bruno Lage, like what I expected to Spartan this year, where those guys one loss, which they haven't lost yet, so it could still happen. And then all of a sudden the cliff. That's what happened with Benfica, is the unexperienced, they had the cliff and they went down. The fans, again, like, you sold all these players for all this money. Where's the investment? How come you're not getting international players? Where's the money going? Blah, blah, blah. You're using, like Kenny said, using this as a business to make money. This is not a business. This is a sport. We want to win titles. I don't care about having money in the bank. I want players. And he said it very clearly today on the interview. Not today, the other day. He said...
well, today for you.
He said, se o Benfica fosse meu, era o Seychelles. Mas o Benfica não é meu. O Benfica é dos sócios. Right? So the sócios asked for me to invest. I invested. Se fosse meu, era o Seychelles. I'll continue the Seychelles. Right? That's exact words what he said. And then another fan asked him, what's your plan for the future? He goes, once the fans ask for investment, and at the beginning, he said it. I don't know if I agree. But people that are running against him were asking for my coach will be Jesus. My coach will be Jesus. So now they are the people that are criticizing the performances. He basically gave the people running against him and the fans what they wanted: Jesus and players, international players. I can list the players. He said it straight up on the TV today. The other day.
Today. No, it's today. It's fine.
Okay, it's today. He goes. Jesus said okay to all these players. Darwin, Jesus asked for him. We questioned that, right? Oh, Darwin, maybe blah, blah, blah. Jesus asked for them. Waldo, Jesus asked for him. Gio, Jesus asked for him. Everton, Jesus begged for him. And then obviously Otamendi came because Ruben Diaz left. Nothing. Jesus, like at that time, it was like 1-for-1, right? Ruben Diaz left. We had to get Otamendi to replace him. Vertonghen was not the first choice for Jesus because he wanted some guy that ended up going to Leeds United, I believe, from the same team that Waldo was playing, right? Some center back.
Coach.
Jesus.
Whatever.
Right?
Cock,
so we couldn't get him.
Yeah.
We couldn't get him, but Jesus said Vertonghen will do. Okay, so we agreed with that. Pedrinho, Jesus, and I even said, if it was another player, there's more players in Brazil that I'll take over Pedrinho. And then and Vieira said this straight up. Ask Jesus if it's not true. Jesus practiced with them and said, "Ele é um craque." É um craque,
Do you
right?
think he said that?
Don't know, but why would he say alive? next interview, he said, ask Jesus, he'll confirm it. If Jesus is gonna say, o DC, so
do you think he would say that he didn't say it?
Why wouldn't he? Jesus is supposed to be his own man, right? He's not a mandado como diziam Carolage e o Rio Vitória. So is he the guy that has balls, or is he not the guy that has balls? Because that's what they used to say about Rio Vitória. So if he's that guy, and he will say, no, I never said I got against Pedrinho. I think he sucks because I don't play him. But no, he said I'm crack, and I just have to adapt him to my system. All right. And then Verissimo, he begged for Verissimo.
Hold on. So before you talk about the rest of it, Milton brings up a good point here, right? So Jorge Jesus, if he goes and tells Luís Vieira que o Pedrinho é craque, but he barely plays, então é craque de categoria.
How Di Maria do the first season? Tell me how many games he played.
That's fair, but if he's a crack, right? I can't imagine that he said Di Maria was a crack early on, right? Because he didn't really show much.
I guarantee he said he was a crack early on. It was just esqueleto. Era gajo, trinca-espinhas. Like what Vieira said in an interview too. Era trinca-espinhas. But ended up being a crack. You have to adapt those players to the league. Pedrinho just got here. He's skinny, but he can tell the guy has skill. You can tell he has a left foot, right? So maybe give him a year like Di Maria had a year. He's young. That's fair, right? I think that's fair.
I don't disagree.
Yeah. So and then Verissimo, that's my last one, is Verissimo is a player that Jesus asked for right at the beginning. Obviously, they couldn't get him, but they got him. So every single person that Jesus wanted, other than a guy that they substituted for Vertonghen, he got. So who do you have to blame here? Why are we blaming the president if he basically did everything that the fans wanted? Everything that the fans wanted by getting this coach that's experienced, supposed to be winning the Campeonato easily with the investment that he wanted. So
let me, and I'm reading a lot of the comments down here about like, oh, I don't believe a word he says, and he's lied to us like for however long. I mean, do you like? There's got to be there's. I mean, the football in Portugal and many countries, right? There's a little bit of politicking in the background, just like in regular in U.S. politics, right? The soccer, there's politicking in the background. Granted, I believe that there's a little bit of exaggeration and a little bit of funny business going on in the background. But what do you mean I don't agree that he's lied to us this whole time, dude. He has put this club on a trajectory for success for the past 20 years or however many years, 10 years, right?
17.
Okay, I get it. There's some stuff that is shady in the background, but that's just the politicking. Do you think if Noronha Lopes came in, right? Like Oscar had said, Noronha Lopes came in, Jesus was his coach. The season was probably going to go the same way that it's going right now.
Because Jesus asked for those players, and Noronha had to get it.
Yeah, what would have happened to Noronha Lopes? What? Not? Oh, but we're gonna give him a pass? No, dude. What happened is what's happening to the season is there was a plan put in place and it didn't work. It just didn't work. Call it COVID. I know Jesus wants to use the COVID excuse. I'm a little whatever about that. I get it. You know, COVID hit us harder than the other clubs, but it's really not an excuse. But at the end of the day, this happened. They put a plan. Like the plan is what we've expected, what we saw that happened at the beginning of the year. It just hasn't worked out for us. Unfortunately, it hasn't worked out. Guess what? We finally missed. We've had everyone like this. It's only two seasons that we've had the last season and this season that's gone wrong for us. We've been very successful in the past 5-6 years. We won. Other than your okay.
You popped his bubble.
No, but still, it's just like we're talking like, oh, Benfica's down, dude. Benfica. I mean, I don't know the numbers. I don't know what's the balance sheet, whatever. But like, what do you mean? I don't think Benfica's like in a terrible position. Okay, we had a couple of bad seasons. I'm pretty sure we're gonna turn it back around and figure it out next season. It's not like we're in the gutter right now. Like, we're very capable of pulling out of this. So, I mean, I don't know. I just get a little annoyed with like the whole, oh, he's lied to us. Like we're almost like we're like Sporting or something. We're not Sporting. Like Sporting's having one good season out of the last 20 years, one good season. Benfica's been very successful in the past. Like we're almost like the fucking New England Patriots over here. Like we just expect fucking championship every single year. We expect the fucking Super Bowl 18-0 whatever. Like, dude, we've had a couple of bad seasons. Let's not blow smoke up our asses over here. Let's relax a little bit.
Kenny coming in with the hot take.
It's just like why are we shit? Like why again? We're just bringing the club down. Like let's relax. Let's take it easy. We're gonna figure this out. And I think Luis Felipe Vieira, I'll tell you right now, if Noronha Lopes was ahead of this club and we needed to dig ourselves out of this mess, I would not be confident. But I'm very confident that Luis Felipe Vieira will get us out of this mess. Because he's done it before. Exactly. You think what would I mean? I don't know. Maybe Noronha Lopes could do it, but he doesn't have experience to do it. So sorry, I just had to get my desabafo out of it too.
That's good.
Only before you go, the only thing I don't agree with with Luis Vieira. He should have basically stood behind his plans. Like, he should have been more like forcing on his idea for this club, right? Instead of like, all right, this is what you guys want. I'm gonna give what you guys want. This is what, like, they're not people. Me, I was one of the people that said it. The academia failed. Like, we need to change something up. But I'm more the idea of mixing players, right? Mixing academia with experienced players, even if you have to fit in a guy here from international here, there, and there. I'm that type of guy, right? So, like, we can't. I don't think we have the capability of holding all these academy players and an 11 team, like. Starting 11 with academy players. You just don't. Any good player that's from academy is going to go somewhere, right? It's hard to keep those players. João Felix,
yes.
Look, how are you going to keep João Felix? Somebody offered 120 million. It's very tough. So we need to get players like we have now, like the Vigos that are struggling in another league, and it'll come in and fit it right into the system. Even though it took a year and a half, we need those kind of players for experience, right? But Luis Vieira is the only thing I kind of don't back him up on. Is he basically got away from his ideas and followed what the fans wanted. And the fans are not experts at this. You can't just, they're not, even though they might not agree with your ideas, stick to them, because you got you where you are right now.
Yeah, I will just say, I saw Mari's comment about the he missed with the Penta, right? He responded to that, and I think that's a great answer, right? Everyone complains about the Penta, but no one wants to talk about the Tetra that you never had.
Yeah, and
right?
The first time you
never had that. The first time you got it, everyone don't talk about the Tetra. They want to talk about the Penta, that we missed the Penta. But guess again, this is that greedy mentality. Oh, you're not satisfied with what you never had, right? Focus on what you had. You know how difficult it is to win 5 championships in a row. Porto's done it once
with Fruta.
Okay, with exactly. But okay, yeah, okay. You're right. We missed the Penta, but I don't think that's. I mean, if that's where you're gonna like crucify the guy for winning 4 championships in a row, you're gonna crucify the guy for winning 4 championships in a row because he didn't get the 5th one. Oh, come on. I think that's a little greedy. We're another thing that Vieira said in an interview is what team in the same kind of rank as Benfica doesn't sell. All right, we cannot afford to hold top players. I just don't understand. Like, why do we sell Ederson and then replace him with Bruno Varela, like Milton just said? Because we can't keep Ederson because somebody offered us $45 million for a goalkeeper. Like, come on, man, come on. Are you gonna say no to $45 million? This is like it makes no sense. How are we gonna keep a goalkeeper if somebody offers us $45 to $50 million for him? Like this. And plus, it's not only Benfica's choice; it's the player's choice too. Doesn't Ederson want to, like, maybe I want to go to Manchester City? Like, who? Like, I don't get. Like, there's João Felix. We have a chance to hold in João Felix, and at all, we have any chance of holding him? No, never.
We are Benfica. We're a selling team. Yeah, we can. Well, Odysseus came. We bought another goalkeeper, and he could be in the next.
We will. I mean, look, and Mike, you clearly, me and Oscar Vieiristas, but Mike, you might be different. But I mean, I am of that mindset too. Like, I don't know. I think realistically that we will never compete. Like, we are in a small Portuguese league. Like, we are a club in a small Portuguese league. We don't have. We're never going to be able to survive and build a multi-million-dollar. I'm not using the right terms, but we're not going to be competing with like the Real Madrids and the English Premier Leagues by just keeping our players and not selling them, because we're just always going to have to sell our players. We are in a small Portuguese league. Like, we're the 6th or 7th club in the not club, 6th or 7th league in the world. If
Something like that, yeah. We're not in the top 5.
We're not in the top 5. Like, we're never going to be able to compete with those teams in the top 5. Never. We're always going to be a selling club, no matter what. Unless some Benfica gets sold to some some Saudi Arabia,
some Paris Saint-Germain type of,
and that's not going to happen. I don't want that to happen, right? I want, and I'm not a saucy, but I want the Benfica to be of the people, right? I want that Clubíssimo, right? And that's what we have with Benfica. But realistically, the only way we will ever compete consistently for Champions League glory is if someone bought us out and just, spent money like PSG does, or like Real, those type of clubs.
Go ahead. Let me just answer Cynthia really quick. All right. The reason why we sold Ruben Dias, that's almost a no-brainer, because we didn't make Champions League and because we wasted 100 million and we needed to make up that cash back. That's fair. 3. There it is. I don't know what else to say. We wasted 100 million. That gave us, like, now the net is 60 or 50.
Jean Miguel says "Te cris, Kenny."
I know, Mike. I want to hear your view. I see Mario. I would love. I mean, Mario. I totally respect Mario's
join
view.
us.
I totally respect Mario's view and other people's view. Right. I'm not going to go against it. Me personally, I'm pretty passionate too about how I see the club and how, the situation that we're in, and that's how, that's just the way it is for me. But yeah, I mean, I respect Mario and Cynthia. I totally respect their opinions as well. I mean, I get it. This isn't fun to go through, but Mike, what about you? You've been.
I've been listening.
You're on the other side of
so
it.
I voted for. I mean, we talked about it, right? I voted for. I was going to vote Noronha Lopes. I voted for Luis Vieira simply on the fact that, given the circumstances we were in, I felt he was more familiar with the club, with the league, everything that's going on, and I felt like a drastic change in the leadership may have created some issues for us financially, right? Whether that's true or not, that's just right. It's just an opinion. You guys talk about how the other guys wanted JJ. I don't think that's accurate. They said that JJ would be their coach because it didn't make sense to get rid of him after the investment and so early on, because the elections are in goddamn October in the middle of the season, which is ridiculous. So I think they said that in the sense of, yes, we'll talk to him and we'll figure it out, but we don't have any plans of getting rid of him, right? Especially given the investment. There was a few things that I liked from the interview and a few things that I didn't like from the interview. At the end, he said, Benfica está num estado de alma que é confuso, which I agree, right? There's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of divide amongst the fan base, which creates some problems. He also said, há pessoas mesmo pulhas, right? Basically calling idiots to the fans, which I didn't like, right? There's a thing, being able to disagree, and I don't care, truth or not, right? You can't come out and say that about your fans, right?
That was when he got heated, right? That was like
correct at the end.
Yes. Yeah. So he that was also.
And I get it.
Jesus said the same thing in his presser.
I know, but he's a coach, right? Like, he's the face of the club, right? Like, you can't come out. I don't agree with that, right? Whether you disagree with it or not, I don't think he should be coming out and saying this, that, or calling names to the fans. I just think it looks bad. One thing that I thought was interesting is he was always one that said, we don't organize the club from the outside in. He's always said that. Criticism, right? Which I agree, right? You need to organize the team and the club from the inside, right? You hire people to do a job, let them do the job, right? If you're going to feed into the commentary and the criticism on the outside and you're going to act on that, it's going to be a problem, right? So he's always stood by, we stand by what we do on the inside, and we don't react from what we hear on the outside. But then he contradicts himself when he says, we had Seychelles, the fans didn't want Seychelles, they wanted us to buy players, so now we went and bought players, and now this, right? So, like, which one is it, right? Are we running the club from the inside, or are we now running the club from the outside based on
That's
what you just said, right? So he essentially contradicts himself in some situations. Now, do I think he's at fault? No, he's not the one that picks the team, right? He's not the one that practices the team. I get that, right? He's got Rui Costa there, Luizão, all that stuff. I get that. From a financial perspective, is he at fault? Yeah, right? He's the ultimately he's the president of the club, right? He needs to make the decisions. Like you said, Ruben Diaz, João Felix, those guys, right? We've talked about it before. They want to leave, right? It's not football isn't the way it used to be. There's so much money in football nowadays, right? Pre-2004, pre-Abramovich, Chelsea, all those clubs that came in with money, sure, right? But before that, Mario just jumped in, so he's going to have an opinion here too, so it's good. So let me finish my speech here before Mario comes in. He's going to come in hot. I just think that those players want ambitious things, right? They want to move on. We get that. They make more money, right? They'd rather go sit on the bench and make more money, some of them, than stay here and play for less money. That's just the reality of it, right? They have a short window. They need to make money. But again, I think there's fault to go around. I think that he's made mistakes, but I also don't like where he talks about, it's almost like Benfica didn't have history before him, right? He talks about, temos museu, blá, 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 a história está toda ali, Benfica não tinha história antes, but like, dude,
no, he
was,
didn't say he didn't have tinha história. Estava todo escondido, like no music, like nothing organized.
I get we didn't have a museum, but like Benfica was big before he came, and they'll continue to be big after he leaves, right? And I think that, right, we talked about it as well, Kenny, right? You go through phases, right? You go through a phase where you win, and then you maybe have a lull, and then you win again, right? But I think Benfica's in a league that we could do what Bayern Munich does in Germany, right? Like, how many seasons have they won in a row, right? Benfica had the opportunity to put their throat on Porto's throat, or put their foot on Porto's throat, and completely wash them away, right? And they didn't. But again, I think there's a lot more politics in the Portuguese league than there is in a German league, right? Or an Italian league, right? It's just a lot that goes on. So I'm on the fence with it. I think there's blame on both sides. I agree with some points that you guys make. João on the podcast yesterday, he made some good points. I was telling Oscar, it was almost like he was manipulating me to believe that JJ or Luis Vieira isn't at fault completely, right? But I think there's good takes on both sides. And I think it's a good discussion to have. I think it's healthy. It's a democratic discussion to have around the club for people to have different opinions. I don't agree with some of the actions that are taken and the timing of some of those actions. But that's nor here nor there. And now I'm going to bring Mario in because he's going to bring in some hot takes here.
Hey, you guys egg me in so much. Come on, right? So I don't know if the audio is working well or not. So I was sitting here the whole time.
It is. It's
editing.
good.
I got something rendering in the background, so if my video gets choppy, let me know.
No, you're good.
First of all, thanks for the answers of the Brazilian show.
I hope you picked up Lima. You picked Lima, right?
Yeah, I picked Lima. One question I actually didn't throw at you guys that I brought up to Alex and Luigi, and it's a recorded one because I'm trying to edit it, was which guy did you have hope for or think could have been great at Benfica if things were different? For that player, let it be
Brazilian or any?
Yeah, Brazilian. And I'll tell you what I said. I said if it wasn't for agent and greed and money and ego, Talisha could have been an amazing.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, Talisha. Yep.
If it wasn't for all the other BS. But yeah, it's fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He crushed it. He crushed it in
Turkey.
In Turkey. Besiktas, right?
He played good for us, but then he had an attitude.
He's too greedy, wasting his days in Brazil. Because he's still in his, he's 27 or some shit like that. He's still good, from an age standpoint. But anyways, I wanted to come in because the whole Luis Vieira thing. My God.
I want to hear your take.
First of all, I got to say, love you guys across the board. So don't take anything I say offside.
No.
And
all
I don't,
opinions, man.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with a lot of things that are said in the sense that I find there's a definitive line where things start falling apart, and it's not all of a sudden falls apart. Luis Vieira, what he did historically, really well. A lot of things he did very well. I agree with what was being said about the idea of how Benfica didn't have history prior to him. Benfica had a bigger history prior to Luis Vieira. The way people talked about Benfica in the 90s and early 2000s was they were one of the big teams in Europe that always, on a regular basis, shows up in a Champions League final or European Cup final. It's been a few years since they've been there, but 1990 they were there, Don't sleep on these guys, So the history part was there. The club was a giant. It was going through a crisis at the time, and he did a great job of turning it around. They should shout what he did was good. A lot of the projects were good. A lot of things he did was good. There's a level of arrogance that he got because he started running unopposed. No one questioned anything the guy does. And there is a problem with any leadership structure. If you stay in power too long, eventually it starts screwing up. The Penta is where it really goes off the wheels because you had a scenario where, we made history with the Tetra. We love it. Porto was reeling. They were a train wreck that season. And instead of reinvesting for the Penta, we gutted the squad. Now, come January window, we were still in the race to win the Penta. And I remember him doing that interview saying, hey, I got all the money in the world. We sold all these players. We got a huge bank account. We can sign anything we want. People are talking about a goalkeeper, this and that. We need all the money in the world. And then the window came and went, and he didn't sign anything. That was a choice.
The winter.
In the winter. He did a big speech similar to this, but at the beginning of the transfer window, talking a huge game, and chose not to do nothing. We barely lost the Penta. Like a few extra parts. That was a choice.
Yeah. Yep.
The whole thing of the Seychelles, the fans love the idea, but if you want to take the idea, it's the idea of saying we're gonna do a made in Benfica product. We got great talent, but if we had a few more youth players that were great, we could compete. Look at Ajax, what they did recently, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Then the choice became I'm going to rely on youth, but I'm going to keep selling all the critical parts of the team and not replace it. I'm just going to use only youth. And then the sale of João Felix was the commitment. We've made so much money in the bank, we'll never have to sell a player ever again unless it's for the full buyout. Fast forward to Ruben Diaz, we're selling a player for way below the buyout. We just went to the Youth Champions League final, and we're out loaning Dantes for next to nothing to Bayern Munich with this buyout that's ridiculous. We're going to lose a guy. It's going to be like a bigger joke potentially than Bernardo Silva in terms of that. So it's kind of you're sitting here going, what the heck did you do? The guy then goes and lays out this huge sob story about how it's all on Jorge Jesus. He's my man. I love this guy. This is everything he asked for, and this is the worst performance in 20 years. And he's like, he's got my full backing. And I kind of sit here and go, never in the history of this club has a manager done as horrific as Jorge Jesus has and retained his job. And the president's coming out saying, I gave him everything he wants. There's this guy on the bench. He says he's a crack. One of the best he's seen. And you know what? Our guys on the wings, they're tired. We got injuries. We got COVID. He's a fucking crack on the bench still. Like the amount of times he's played, if he's truly a crack, he's playing. Like Jorge Jesus, if he likes someone, plays him. So I'm sitting here, either Luis Vieira's bullshitting us or Jorge Jesus has gone way too senile and he needs to go. But you can't have both. You can't kind of say, I gave him everything he wanted and he's delivering the worst ever and he's got my full support. And then in terms of like, so that's where, and then when you talk about Lopes, it would have been what, October, November? Lopes would do nothing. He would do absolutely nothing. I fully agree with that statement. But in terms of the statement that all the people running were supporting Jorge Jesus, well, at the time of the election, we're 2-3 months into the season, everything's baked in. So they kept trying to ask Lopes, are you going to fire Jorge Jesus? I'm like, no, he just got a record contract. Benfica's never signed a contract this to a manager and spent this kind of budget. I'm not going to go and turn around and fire him day one. I'm going to sit down with them, learn about his strategies, and figure out what we're going to do to get out of the situation because we were already not doing so well at that point. So I don't see any difference there. What else is there, man? You guys covered a lot of shit, and it's good points you guys make. But like, I just look at it as kind of the guy has lost the whole subject matter. And the biggest issue I'd say with Luis Vieira was the instructions, and he could say he doesn't want to talk about it, but BTV refusing to debates, having any discussion or coverage of the election.
Yep.
A lot of people there was a lot of talk that Lopes won the election in the last second miracle, a record turnout. In a year that Luis Vieira has been hated the most ever, he got more votes for support than ever before. He never got this many votes for him in the prime of any period of his history at the club. So a lot of people started questioning the vote count, refusing to count the votes, refusing to validate the votes.
Oh, boy,
there are articles out right now. And here's my thing. My thing about this, my thing of this right now is there's all these people coming out causing confusion and conspiracy theories. Luis Vieira could have settled this month one. He could have basically said, hey, shut the heck up. I'm going to send the guys out. We're going to count them. I'm going to prove it to you. We got to rally around this team. Instead, he hid in a bunker for the last 3 months, allowing these conspiracies to get out of hand, the banners get worse, the aggression to get worse. It's gotten so much animosity at the club now from the fan base because he decided not to be a leader tied. And then he goes, it's my fault. Kupa the COVID, Kupa this, Kupa that. And he went on this huge list about everything else's fault right after he said it's my fault, right? So he basically deflected everything. And I kind of sit here, okay, after this grand announcement, after months of hiding, what is the official game plan? And there is no actual, I'm giving, this is what you guys deserve. This is what you guys want, is the message. When it's all said, like if you actually sit back and think, what is the message left over? You guys got what you deserve.
They got what he asked for. They asked for. I agree with that. I mean, look, Mike made a good point when it comes to Luis Vieira's job is basically to run Benfica as a business. It is a business. We cannot afford to keep all these players because that's not what Benfica will basically be ruined if we keep all these players, right? So he's running this. He's o tesoureiro do Benfica. How do you say in Portuguese? Tesoureiro. Yeah, he's basically, and then he has a group around him that make the team. We have the scouting people that call on the players outside, overseas or whatnot, elsewhere. Then we have Rui Costa and yet Diogo, the guy that left. They used to run the team, make the team with Jesus. Vieira, we're putting the blame on Vieira, but he's the ultimate man because he's a yes or no guy, right? But like, is he supposed to know that Verissimo is a good player?
You said exactly the point though, is he's running it like a business, a corporation. He has no clue about what goes on the pitch. He has no comprehension of it. And a prime example is I talked to Rui Gomes, which was one of the guys I ran, right? And his biggest thing, because he was hired by Lucio Vieira to be his vice president, and as the story goes, he was kicked out of being vice president because he didn't like Lucio Vieira's decision making. And his big argument that he always ran on from day one was, this guy has no ambition on the pitch. He could care less about the pitch. It's all about a corporation business. He doesn't have that vision. And then you fast forward to today. Lucio Vieira does that speech. What does Ruben Diaz says? What, a day this weekend, right? It was this weekend.
Yeah.
I'm so glad to be at a club that has some ambition, that has ambition. And you kind of sit here and you don't say that as a Benfiquista unless, because he's a purebred Benfiquista. And you got also Bernardo Silva at that club that very publicly hates this guy. And he kind of, these are people inside the club and in the organization saying, this man does not give a shit about growing it. And I agree with your point that he doesn't know football, but his job is to run the business per se. So you're going to hire a general manager or someone to run it. Yeah. So when you see
Rui Costa knows it. Are we not in agreement that Rui Costa knows football? That he should fall more on Rui Costa's shoulders creating this team?
I think but the thing is, Rui Costa is his man. The impression that everyone's been getting is Rui Costa will be the one step in line to replace Lucio Vieira. It's kind of like the thing is the lack of accountability on who's at fault for Kyle Lucas. Like, I know it's a stupid joke I make all the time, but those are the examples of signings that we make as an organization, as a club, that if I was an organization and I go, okay, yeah, I give the blessing for you to sign people. Who'd you sign? Who the fuck is a CL7? Is this next Ronaldo? No, it's a joke. Why would you even sign that? Someone should have lost their job for that. Someone should have. No one did. There's no accountability for the last few years. It's been kind of like the Wild West, sign whoever you want. And where's the game plan and strategy behind what we're doing, right? And it's kind of like, I can understand if you don't understand the product on the field, but do you understand the product is going sideways and you need to hire someone to run it better?
Who's the player that Manchester United bought from Guimarães?
Bebe.
Come on, man.
That's a good one. No, that's the equivalent to that is Darwin for us.
It did, but like,
we have
these
third division
scouts everywhere, man.
Yeah, he was third division, signed by Guimarães. I didn't think he played 1 minute. Guimarães went straight to
Manchester United. So
Mendes was his agent.
Yeah,
that's Mendes magic right there. No, but my thing is kind of looking at it. We talk about, the issues at this club, and I'd love to see Lucio Vieira and Jorge Jesus together, and answering that question. And I love to hear if Jorge Jesus still stands by his comment that I wanted a box-to-box, wanted to keep Vinicius, and wanted to keep Ruben Diaz.
I love that. I want the next presser that Jesus has. I wish those questions came at him. The ones that the reporters saw from Vieira. Hey, by the way, did you say Pedrinho is a crack?
He's a crack. Why is he not playing? Right? You know, if
Right.
we're having
Stuff like
issues
that.
sometimes, like things like that. I think this is where there's like, it's the blame game that's going on. It's like you're the president of this club. You know, okay, fine, blame whatever you want. What's the action? Like, what are we doing now? Are you like one thing would be saying, listen, Georgiou's my man. I understand it's garbage. I got a budget and this is how much I'm going to commit this summer. We're going to build a team. Trust me, we're building a team. He didn't say that.
Well,
he kind of
one
left
thing-
it waffling. Like, I don't even know if Georgiou will be around at the summer. Like, there's a chance he might get fired, but you just have no direction of where we're going with this.
Hey, I don't know if you guys noticed, but on this interview at the end is what scared me the most is how they're trying to make the Portuguese government give the teams money for this COVID thing, for the relief type of thing. and that scared me because the reporter kept asking, are your contas going to be negative this year? And you promised to be positive every year. And he didn't want to. It kept like rumbling around. Oh, you know, the governo should be helping us because we pay the most taxes in Portugal, and they should be giving us a relief type of thing, just like they did at the top and all that, right? So I'm afraid of what's coming this year because he didn't answer that question legit. Like he was not very clear on that answer. So
yeah, and then that the spend we actually spent this year was like 20 million only. That's all we spent.
Right. But we're not making any.
That's what. When you look, yeah, you're supposed to, well, I still look at like we're not making like tickets in the
Champions
stands.
League, Europe, and now we didn't win many games in Europe. We tied.
Yeah, so we're not getting much of that. But the thing is, when I look at it, it's like you didn't spend much, and supposedly we're sitting on close to 200 million, or whatever the amount that they're bragging about just over 12 months ago, after João Felix was sold. Because the way they ran is you had Raul Jimenez's loan went out and Wolves bought it. The way that the tickets landed, if you actually look in the last like 24 months, how the money hit the books, there's a lot of cash hit the books. And now to kind of talk, and this is what drives me nuts, is lately, and then there's a thing done at Benfica which drives me nuts is you have these bits of messaging that come out saying, oh, we got to be careful, we may have to sell some players in the summer. You're seeing all these various sources at Benfica talking, we got to maybe, you know, money's tough, it's COVID, we got to sell players. It's like, be straight up with us. What's going on with the books? Like, yeah. This is the thing I despise the most is if Luís Vieira wanted to really own the situation, is kind of explaining, here's the budget. Here's everything we got in the bank. The club is great. We got the debt knocked down. If we needed to borrow 100 million, we could. I don't want to do that right now because I want to keep the club without debt. This is what I want to do to kind of go forward. It's this whole lack of transparency. Like when you talk about João Felix, we got 120 million for that one. We didn't pay agent fees because we made them pay 126. The 6 was to the agent. We got all 120. And you're saying, oh, cool. And then we didn't spend it. Then you're like, right. And then we spent net 20. So you're saying like our operating expenses without European money is $100 million. I'm like,
but he said he paid down a lot of debt on something. At the interview, he said he paid out a lot of debt.
The BE, he owed
the Bez and all.
Experience Center.
Yeah. So he said he paid out a lot of
debt on the stadium side. Yeah. Now the thing is, though, if you look at it's the problem I hate with this situation is typical Portugal, because Portugal's just shady how they do things. You have the SAD.
So Mar,
you have the club.
Mar, before you get into that, so I just had a question, right? I don't follow the books and the balance sheets like maybe like you do, but like is that a common thing that you can get access to with Benfica or any other club in Portugal, or is that just like you were about to say, like is that just a Portuguese thing or a Portuguese league thing that they just don't show their books as?
No, they have Assembleia Geral. They have Assembleia Geral.
They have two things. There's two books. There's two sets of books, and this is where it gets really confusing. There is Benfica the club. All Benfica the club is a stadium and Mulidade and a museum. Benfica the product on the pitch. So think of what we call B-SAD, Belenenses SAD, right? The joke about that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That is the football team that used to be part of Belenenses. The team you see, Jorge Jesus and the players are SAD. They're a completely different organization.
They are SAD. Yeah.
They are SAD, literally. So that organization is a publicly traded. It's a requirement they came out for, I don't know the year, way back in the day. They came out with this rule, and it was mainly for tax evasion because, you know, how Portugal is. So they said you got to create for football is so big, you need a publicly traded entity or a corporation. It doesn't have to be publicly traded, but you have to file like a corporation as a separate entity outside of your club. So you have to run separate books. We don't care what you do in your goddamn Bifana sales. We don't care if you're selling drugs with your beers on the side. You do whatever you want to do in the stadium in Mulidade. But because we know there's all the money is really in football, separated. So Benfica owns a percentage of the shares, not all the shares of the footballing side. So I forget the number. I don't know if it's 60 or 70%. Over the years, we've sold out positions. The debt on the SAD and the debt on the club is two different debts. So when he talks about debt being paid off, sometimes people go, oh, Benfica owes an obscene amount of debt. They do as a collective. He paid down the debt on the stadium club side. The actual SAD debt didn't touch much. It didn't go down much. So that's kind of a challenge. Is kind of go, okay, what's the game plan here? And then when you look at books, like you were saying, the General Assembly is talking about the club books, and there's stuff people can question there, whatever they want to debate away. And then the SAD books are the publicly traded. There's audited statements, but there's a lot of miscellaneous category in the millions that falls in there. And for a lot of companies, it's normal, but it's kind of frustrating when you have a guy say, we made this much cash, and then in within 12 months saying, well, we don't have cash. It's like, man, you can break it down for us simpletons and say, listen, out of the João Felix money, we got bills to pay. We got 30 extra million for the coffers for the whole thing. Like, give us, like, you don't have to go really specific, but give the people an idea of what are we working with, right? And I find there's this like tendency where he likes to brag about how great he is as a president. And he's like, look how much I've done here. I paid off all the debt. Look at all these millions I've made. Look at all this. But by over exaggerating, over bragging in certain areas, you set up these high expectations from us saying, okay, cool. We got no debt. We're sitting in cash. We got all the resources in the world. And then when he starts kind of going against all this stuff, it's an issue. And I saw Gary's comment about the investigation. There's like a shitload of criminal investigations right now on Luis Vieira and the club. Some of it's bogus probably because obviously it's Portugal. But I think of the Barcelona thing that just happened this week, that could actually happen at Benfica because a lot of it's tax evasion related. And yeah, there's something. Okay, so real quickly on the SAD, I'm just going to say one more thing. Very recently, in the last 6 months or so, the Securities Commission in Portugal stepped in and blocked Benfica from doing a deal with a contractor, which is a partial shareholder of Benfica SAD and Luis Vieira, involving swapping money of the club to third-party hands. Because Benfica, the SAD, is also building apartment buildings, like rentals that we flip. Luis Vieira, one of the big owners, that's a third-party owner of Benfica, technically, is a real estate developer that's friends with Luis Vieira that came involved after Luis Vieira joined. We like to do real estate business, build buildings, do land development, not football related, like residential and things like that, with this guy. And there's no discussion ever if this is like an open bidding or if this is just, he's my boy, we're giving him this contract to build an apartment building, we're going to sell this building, it's good for the club, make some money. But if we've flipped real estate in Lisbon for the last, I'd say 8 years. And if you ask anyone that lives in Lisbon, the price of a home today in Lisbon or an apartment today in Lisbon, it's sky high relative to like 10, 20 years ago. If you're building and flipping real estate in Lisbon, you should have made some big coin. And we're talking in the millions. And there's never any talk about profit in doing that. So that's where some of the investigations are going on with Luis Vieira. That's what some of the investigations are happening with SAD, saying, okay, you got a shareholder that also develops property for your corporation, and you seem to give exclusive contracts to him. The property has nothing to do with footballing or the club itself. And that's where there's this whole murkiness that's been building over the last few years. And I don't know. This is why I would like Benfica historically has only had a president for 4, maybe 8 years tops. The thing about switching people is you have a fresh look at the books. A guy that's been in power for what? He's going to be in power now 18 years, whatever it's going to be when it's all said and done. You get kind of nervous because you got BTV playing defense for him, avoiding debates. And, this is the tightest conversation he's had on any topic with a scripted interview where he's the boss of the guy asking him the questions.
That's expected. That's expected. Yeah. I mean, they're not going to put him in a bad situation. I mean, you're not going to put Benfica and the president in a bad spot.
I think that
the lack of transparency and the lack of
that's true. But let's be honest. If you have Porto Channel interviewing Pinto Costa, what do you think they're going to put him on the spot too?
Of course not.
No, they're not. But here's the thing. If you ask Portishas what they think of Pinto Costa's situation, there's a lot of them that are slowly getting sick because there's all these stories of his sons giving money off the side. Porto's on a decline. There's an issue with power for life because there is a point where someone kind of goes, I control this, I own this. You can't question anything I do. And everyone that works at Benfica, like I'm not blaming the people at Benfica. If I work at Benfica and I feel this guy's got a stranglehold at the club, and I make my daily living doing briefings at BTV, or I work for the website, I know if I stick my neck out, I'm gone. That's a fact. Anyone that's ever spoken out, they're fired. So it's kind of like, do I want that mentality at this organization where it's like it used to be a fan-run organization where there's differences of opinions and we can have conversations. And the funny thing that happened was right after his interview, there was that whole criticism of Benfica FM, Benfica Independent. I know some of the guys involved with that, ripping them a new one, saying how they shouldn't be critical of the club, all this other stuff. And so the initial bit was, fuck it, cancel your BTV. These guys hate us, the fans, cancel it. A few days after that saying came down, all the stories coming out, people cancel their subscriptions. You had a guy on Benfica TV saying, oh, you got to be okay with this. The guy was playing a bit of defense, saying we have different opinions. Obviously, we support Luis Fieta, and the people outside don't, but we got to get along. And they're kind of now, there is a certain struggle going on within the club where the external opinion or the different opinion doesn't exist in the organization. That's dangerous. That's where you got, like, if you're a good leader, you got to bring in people that have the opposite opinion to help you become better. You know what I mean?
Right. I agree with that.
No,
So that's my issue right now. It's kind of like, I think George Jesus could have a great team on his hands right now, but I question the intent at the top of the house.
So Mark, I agree with that. I agree that there's definitely an expiration date with every run, right? With Luis Fieta, there's definitely an expiration date. I know a lot of people wanted it to be now. Some, like myself, are okay with another 4 years, but I think there's a culture within the Portuguese league and the Portuguese clubs that almost like that the politics behind it, that you need to be a little bit like Pinto da Costa. You need to be there has got to be some shady stuff going on. Like, it's just expected in order to continue to stay afloat, right? Porto hasn't been able to maintain this without doing the shady business, right? There's a little bit of politicking or whatever you want to call it.
That's a good example right there, though. Right there, this season, the amount of penalties Porto has gotten, I think, is directly correlated with Pinto da Costa, Conceição, the Porto brass, the Porto media, saying we should be winning this league. You guys are robbing us, going hard to the net, defending the team against the Liga and the refs. I don't agree with it. I'm just saying they go hard to the net. We have silence.
Yes.
This is the thing. This is the thing where I'm not asking for bribes. I'm saying stand up for the team. Fine, you're the president. Stand up for it. Yeah, he did an interview. He still didn't actually stand up for the team.
I know. He said he sent like some letter or something to the league. And I agree with you. I've said it here on the that's been my main concern with Luis Fieta, is that I feel like in the past he has shown more of his face in situations like that. He's been with the club and sticking behind them and sticking it to the federation and the arbitraging, all that. And this year it's quiet. It's like crickets, right? Until the other day, until he gave the interview. And I don't know why. That's my criticism of him, right? I wanted him to be more up against it with the higher ups. But I don't know. I feel like what I was trying to say is you gotta have a little bit of that politicking that goes on in the Portuguese league and between the Portuguese clubs in order to stay afloat. Or in my opinion, you end up like Sporting, where you just go through president and president and president.
Yeah, no, you don't want that. No, I get what you're saying. It's you want like leadership on that side. Yeah.
And he has the experience for that, right? He knows where he needs to push the buttons, where he needs to go, where he needs to sell a player. He's got Jorge Mendes, like he's got the connections. And my opinion going into the election was bringing in Noronha Lopes, or if Noronha Lopes had gotten elected, you got a new person in office in a COVID year where you're going to face difficulties regardless, right? Just forget the soccer and the football stuff. You got to deal with the COVID situation. But then let's just say, right, he kept Jesus, right? Because it's a big investment. You can't get rid of him. Most of these players were already signed or about to get signed. So you're most likely going to keep some of these players. You're going through this situation as a newcomer. You're just putting yourself in a bad situation. I have more belief that Luis Fieta can get us out of it versus if someone else new had stepped in. Now I could be wrong, right? I could, we could.
Oh, I think at that point it was baked. It's kind of like you put the cake in the oven, you've put the ingredients in there, it's good to go. You set the timer. Whether you pull the cake out early or not, it's going to taste based on what you put into it. Like at the election point, it was far too late. I'm also kind of semi-laughing because I'm seeing the chat talking about Asian spas and people saying they love Asians. Like it went off the rails for a second. As you were talking, I kind of tried not to laugh because I'm like, I wasn't paying attention. I'm like, Suchi, we're talking about rubber tugs out here. Oh, okay, but like the futa is strong here. No, I get what you're saying, and I also get. My thing is just there is a valid reason why people would want Lopes. There's a valid reason why people would want Lucio Vieira.
Yeah, I get
the
it.
Result is the result. The result is the result. My thing that drove me nuts is like, okay, you had this like building tension to this election. You won, but you didn't. It took a miracle to win because he had, again, going back to the vote count, he never got these many votes in his entire life. So a miracle happened where all these votes showed up for Lucio Vieira. And all the chanting outside the stadium for Lopes was BS. Everything for Lopes everywhere was BS. It was his. And all these questions of fraud came up. And then his silence, like his leadership since going, okay, you know what? I want to contest an election. I know things are looking kind of dicey, because we're already we're knocked out of the Champions League. This game plan he built clearly is going off the rails because we're not doing well at all at that point. And he's like, I got time to rally the troops. Because we did that with Rui Vitória when George Jesus went to Sporting. We were doing garbage. There was a rallying of the troops, support this team. The people supported this team, and we went and did great things. I'm not expecting us to win, but it's the fact that his decision-making, I feel, has gotten worse since the election. The hiding, the not making any comments. Like, to me, in this interview, you threw George Jesus under the bus. And with everyone saying this is the worst we've ever done with any manager ever in the history of this club, it's like, okay, this is all on George Jesus. What's the game plan here? And he just left it. He's my man. That's like, wait, didn't you just say this is all his choosing? You know what I mean? Like, so there's this kind of sentiment sitting there.
But there's just to touch on that, Mario. So I get that, right? I totally understand that. But there's also a business side of it, right? He's sticking to his man, not only because he hired him and that it is what it is, but there's also a huge. I mean, you let him go, you're just putting the club in a bad situation money wise. So there's like the football side of it, and then there's also the business side of it. That it doesn't make business sense to let him go because you're not gonna do any better this season. I mean, a club?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I agree with you. But I think a club this size, with technically supposedly the size we have for a budget, it's $2 million. This contract, $6 million.
I don't know.
It'd be the cost. So let's say that the cost of Jorge Jesus firing would be the cost of Gilberto. That's the way to put it, right? Like, it's not like he is like a mega. He's not going to bankrupt fire. I'm not asking him to fire Jorge Jesus because I think Jorge Jesus could build something. My thing is more of what is the game plan? Like, you kind of like indirectly threw the guy under the bus here. But you're saying he's your guy,
right? Yeah.
But at the same time, the guy only signed a 2-year contract, and he just proceeded to, in terms of the recent changes at the club, sign Otamendi, Jan Vertonghen. We got Tarat, we got Jardel, we got a bunch of guys that are aging out. We got Seferovic isn't going to get any better, like he's not going to go for any money. And you kind of sit here and we're loaning out all of our youth guys with really low bio clauses to like egg on teams to buy these guys cheap. And it's like, what are we doing in 2 years' time? Like, I honestly don't get this game plan right now. Like, I don't see this vision. Like, I could see the vision before with George Jesus. I could see the vision with the Shishal. I could always support Lucio Vieira saying, okay, cool. You told me your pitch. You sold me. I'm sold. Let's go. Carrega Benfica. I'm like, sell me, man. Sell me. Like, I'm a Benfica. We all want to agree saying, like, I want to win. And I know, I understand we're not going to win this year, but sell me, man. Sell me why we're going to win. And I left that thing going, all right, we're fucked.
Like, Marty, my two cents on that. I keep saying, going back to this, I keep thinking that Jesus and these investments this year, I will put my hands on fire for this. I think it was an election type of thing. This investment, it was all right. Because one guy called in during the interview, not called in, but he sent one of those voice messages or videos, and he asked, "What is the plan? What's your plan going forward?" And he said, "It's the Seychelles." He said, my plan would be the Seychelles. My plan is the Seychelles, right? Jesus is not the Seychelles, right? He admitted during the interview, Jesus is not the Seychelles, right? He's not the person that we got a coach here to get the Seychelles, which is Rui Vitória and Bruno Lage. Now you basically mentioned Bruno Lage specifically, and that didn't work. This happened. We went downhill for a while. Election year, I think this was an election type of investment. Like,
no, but he also said, you the fans forced me to get rid of Lage and Vitória.
Right. You guys made his bed. You guys made his bed.
You guys made his bed, and you made me change. And now you wanted Jesus back. That was another thing he said. He goes, the fans wanted Jesus back. I brought Jesus back. So he's saying, which I agree, right? If it's your vision, it's your vision. But now you're blaming the fans because you're doing what the fans want you to do instead of taking responsibility for yourself.
The guy asked, what do you see in the future? What's your future? And he said, my future would be the Seychelles. So I think this is a temporary kind of band-aid to shut up the fans and then go back to his original plan. And that's
my thing. It's going back to I'm blaming the fans. He's acting he's like, it's like, here's my thing. Again, this is a fan-run organization. This isn't like Valencia where you have a private owner and they lash out the fans saying, hey guys, shut up. We don't care what you think of what we're doing as a club. We own this. It's my team. You guys and pointing the finger. It's like, I go back to him blaming the fans. I'm like, no, the fans like the idea of youth. The fans also like the idea of experience. They like both. And when you kind of let's go back to a little bit back. Mitroglou, we love Jonas. Mitroglou beat Jonas to be the top goal scorer.
Mm-hmm.
And then he kicked Mitroglou out of the club. Mitroglou was asked in an interview went to Marseille, why did you leave the club? And his response was, or why'd you want to leave the club? He's like, I didn't. Go ask the president. He didn't want to leave. And then you kind of look at this kind of gutting of the squad. And I'm going to go to Bruno Lage a tiny bit. And this is just from, okay, I'm not going to say the individual's name. But anyway, so long story short, when Lage was brought on, he was temporary. That was the game plan. Luis Vieira loved Jorge Jesus. His goal was to hire Jorge Jesus. He wanted to hire Jorge Jesus at that time period. Lage killed it and was forced to sign Lage. So when he killed it and we sold João Felix that year and we did everything else, he also chose to not reinvest back in the squad. It's one thing to kind of say, I'm going to build on youth. But if I'm going to pluck out your diamonds and you got no other diamonds to pick on, I'm leaving you out to dry. And I kind of look at that and I go, why? Why would you do that as a president? Like that to me is my irritant is kind of like, why would you allow the club to get that situation? If you kind of look at the situation in the off season, and he made the comment, let's say Seychelles, you look at Florentino being loaned out, you look at all these guys being loaned out, it's kind of like, I don't know, man, you can only pull so many diamonds out of that academy. Like we might luck out and keep getting them, but if you got it all, like, I don't know. It's going back to the vision. I agree with you. I think it was knee jerk. I think it was an election was coming up and he wanted to stay in power. And I got a feeling if Luis Vieira, given everything else happening, had said prior to election, you know what, guys, it's been a good run. Thank you very much. Here's all the titles I want. Here's all the shit I've done for you. Have a good night. See you later. And he decided to let someone else take over. He would have left with a ton of credibility. Yeah. I think this now is he's grabbing onto power as much as he can. And you kind of sit going, like, you think this guy's going to, I don't know, hopefully he's successful because I want him to be successful. But I'm kind of going in a circle now. It's this kind of situation where it's kind of like, where are you going from here now?
So let me ask you this. So do you think he finishes his 4 years?
No.
You don't?
Because I know they're gathering the signatures right now for the assembly.
Yep.
Really? Oh, so
it's being gathered. It's pretty much they're pretty much ready to go. You're gonna
he's just gonna go into his closet and pull out all the ballots that he has in there and just put them back.
Dude,
he's just gonna put them back.
That's the thing. It's like I get scared. I get very scared about the situation right now.
According to him, he got 2 and 3. Every other 3 socios, 2 of them voted for him. Right? That's how he accounted for the votes. Right? So. Well, that's what he said. I'm going by the interview that I saw.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, if you average it out, but like one sauce, you could have like what, 5 votes or something.
Yeah, it's not
Right.
one vote, one sauce.
right, but how many of those
He averaged
votes
it
do you
out.
think it flipped on this time period? I don't think some, yeah, but I don't think many that could overturn this election.
I think you'd be surprised. I think there's a lot of people that were on the fence that voted for Lucio Fieta for the very reason he said, saying, you know what, I think he's run his course, but it's a COVID year. You know what? Let's keep stability at the helm. I fully I can appreciate that. I can actually appreciate that because it makes sense. And then the blaming the fans, the hiding in the bunker, the refusing to count the ballots, and all this other stuff, and people getting kind of upset with BTV. If you look at outside of BTV, it's so rare. Like, you guys are truly rare when you're talking about Lucio Fieta in a positive light. There's a very small, narrow window. Let's be honest. And there's a lot of Benfica is the biggest club in Portugal. A lot of fans talk. It is so rare to actually see anyone willing to even say, you know what, he should stay on, kind of thing. That kind of sends a signal. And I don't know, man. I think people are livid. George is just pointing the finger at the fans. So you got a Sporting Isha doing this, being a dick. But he was a controversial signing for some people. Some people hated him. Some people loved him. And it's blame the fans. The BTV blamed the fans. Lucio Fieta blamed the fans. It gets to a point where I do think it's going to get nasty. And my fear is if people think the system's being robbed from them, I think the animosity gets worse. I think he needs to, if it goes to an assembly and he wins again, that's fine. Make it as transparent as possible. So shut everyone up. Shut me up. That's what I want. We do another election randomly and he wins and they double check everything and they make it all open and they do debates and everything. And they go, listen, shut the fuck up. And I'm like, yeah, you won, man. Let's win this thing. Let's go. It's the feeling that it's being robbed, and you're seeing the banners outside the stadium. I think the level of I'm really worried that we're going to see like what happened at Sporting, and I worry about that. I'm at this. I
think
petrified of that.
We win tomorrow, and I think we have a few good games in our belt, and everything turns around. Like meaning like the fans start being, we're the best team in Portugal again. I wish we had another 2 months.
Because compared to Porto isn't that. I mean, Porto's not doing that much better. I mean, really.
Oh, no, Porto's shambles too. Why aren't the sauces of Porto throwing fits like we are? They are 3 points ahead of us, and they're out of every cup.
But the media doesn't publicize it like they do with Benfica.
We might end up doing better than Porto.
No, we can't this year because just the games they've won in Champions pays what Benfica will probably win in their whole.
No, but in terms of the league itself, but the league itself, I think like the critical thing is the top 3 spots. We get third or second, and Braga gets the other spot. Porto are in a crisis because they have financial disarray going on themselves right now.
Right.
That's the problem right now. Like there is I think it's easily recoverable. Like what you were saying earlier when you're like, we can bounce back. Oh, we easily can bounce back because Porto's a train wreck. And, Sporting's going to go do a fire sale come this summer because they win the league and they're also in financial disarray. They're looking to sell players. And Braga's going to make some money, but they're not going to be able to build a top caliber team. We still have the full opportunity to go and then win another Tetra. Like, I have no doubt of that. But my thing is with the money we get, if you actually write down the TV sponsor money, the shirt deal money, the player sale money, the ticket revenue money, the merchandise sale money, you have Benfica here, like really high. You get Porto down here, and then Sporting further down, and everything else. Like the gap is so big that you kind of go, man, like we said earlier, we should be a Bayern Munich. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like in terms, not domestically, not Europe, but domestically, we should own this league, and then we could focus on Europe. You know what I mean?
And he's always got the naming of the stadium in his back pocket just in case he needs to make some extra money.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it was a good conversation, Mario.
It was a good chat, man, guys. I appreciate it. You guys are awesome.
Welcome anytime, my friend.
Thanks to everyone in the chat. The chat blew up today. We were talking about Asians. We were talking about all sorts of stuff. Fruit, cafe. It was a whole bunch of stuff. So thanks everyone that was in the chat. There's Trump comments. There's all sorts of stuff in this chat today. So it was good.
Yeah, this thing's going straight to the CIA.
Lot of new names in there, which was good. Thanks to everyone who Thanks to everyone who stuck around to watch the rest of the show. There was quite a few numbers in there today, so I appreciate it. If you haven't already, don't forget to follow us on Facebook, like the page, subscribe to our channel on YouTube. I know there's quite a few people watching us on YouTube. And stay tuned for more stuff. We do it weekly. But again, thanks for the support, boys. It was a good conversation, as always.
Are we doing quick predictions or what?
Yeah, we'll do a quick prediction for tomorrow. Start with you, Oscar. What's going to be the score?
We lose 3-0. Just kidding.
I was going to say, after all that?
I don't want to jinx it. I don't want to jinx it. All right, we're going to win. We're going to win 2-0.
2-0.
Are we home? I can't remember.
Yeah, we're home.
We're home.
We're home anyways. It's better field.
I'm going like 4-0 on this one.
He's going to play some subs, man.
No, I'm going
Mario,
to go 4-1, actually. 4-1.
I think, you know what? I'm going to agree with Kenny. It's going to be a big win. I think they're going to want to make a big ass statement because the whole idea, like you just said, he did the speech. He's like, we got a second division side, guys. Don't fuck it up. Go and smash
Porto just
them.
lost. Yeah.
Porto just lost. Smash the heck out of Estoril. Send them back down. Keep them down there. And he'll go for a big one. I really like a 4-something. It wouldn't shock me seeing that.
He's gonna play Tavares, man. With no way.
Tavares is gonna get a hat trick. As the Gold TV guy says his name, Nuno Tavares. That's how you pronounce him in English.
Milton says Gonçalves Ramos with a hat trick.
That's right. The kids can get
sick,
yeah.
And he said he's got to join us next week. Absolutely. Let me know. Send me a message on Twitter. We'll get you in here next week. Again, thanks everyone for joining the chat. Thanks for watching. Mario, again, thank you for joining. It was a pleasure having you on, as always.
Good luck tomorrow.
It'll be fun, man. It'll be fun.
Have a good rest of your evening, and we will catch you next week. See you guys.
See you guys later.
Good night, boys.
Peace.